Hey everyone, welcome to another Hobby Hump. I'm here with my man James. James, how's it going tonight?
I'm doing good, John. I'm doing great. Humping it away today.
Humping it away. Anything exciting going on in your life, in your collecting life?
Man, can you believe it? I found out today I bought something on REA a while back. The way I paid for it was through check because it was a sizable amount that sometimes several Zelle payments could be a pain. So instead, I decided to mail them a check. And I sent it priority mail and it got lost.
You're
So
kidding.
yeah, like 3 weeks later, they call me, "Hey, do you plan to pay for your winnings or what?" And I'm like, "I sent you a check. It should have been there. It was priority mail." We go investigate, and it's like after like two destinations, it just stalled. So now I had to get in contact with the post office. They opened up a case and all this and that, all for me to finally just pay through Zelle. I did, several payments through Zelle. And then it turned out they called me today. They just got the check today, and that was
Uh,
shipped out in September.
did
Insane.
you do you know why it was delayed?
Now I
Did
probably
they give
got.
you an explanation?
She told me the envelope looked a little bit tattered, so it probably
Mm.
got like mishandled and slid under a desk or something. I don't know, but they just got it, and she's gonna void out the check and mail it back to me. But yeah, 2 months later, I paid $10 to have that priority shipped, and it got totally mishandled.
Wow, I never heard of a priority being handled that way. I know. I could say as somebody that's I got back into the hobby in 2014, so I've pretty much getting a steady flow of packages since then. And the post office used to be like on point. I used to get packages on Sundays. I couldn't even believe they were delivering mail on Sundays. And ever since COVID, man, it's so crazy. They stopped the Sunday deliveries altogether.
Mhm.
Even I don't even think they do it anymore for priority or anything, and your packages will say delivered 2 days before they're actually delivered. I've
Mhm.
had stuff go missing, uh, never to be found again. It's just hit or miss. I used to freak out. It would say delivered, and I'm like, it hasn't been delivered. And then 2 days later, it'll show up. And
Right.
then, at night, I'll get a ping saying my package was delivered. I don't know if they're scanning them in the evening to deliver them in the morning, but it's just all over the place.
Yeah, it is. And then, I mean, I wanted to just ask them for my money back because they didn't really provide the service that they should have. But even for that, they want like proof and all this and that, what was sent, things of that nature. And it's just too much for $10. Are you kidding me? It's not even worth my time. I'll probably end up wasting $10 in gas going back and forth to the post office to try to see how to resolve this. I didn't even bother.
Yeah, I had one card that never showed up at all. I had
Right.
another one that showed up like 2 months later out of the blue when I had written it off.
Right.
I mean, it's kind of crazy.
It
I
is.
you understand that if it's coming through an area that had a storm or something like that, but that was not the case with any of these packages I'm speaking of.
Right. Um, and then that was on top of one like 3 years ago where I had the Sandy Koufax rookie card just went missing. So this is the second incident I've had with the
Oh
post
man,
office. Yeah. And
you
that
never
one
got it?
never got it. It was ruined through the conveyor belt.
Oh
They
no.
sent me the remnants of the envelope. The guy sent it in a manila envelope. So that was his fault.
Oh,
He
you're
should have,
kidding me.
yeah, he should have
So they
bubbled.
machined it.
Yeah, they machined it. You saw the black like tire marks on it, basically, of the conveyor belt of the rubber on it, and it was all wrinkled up, and obviously the contents were just destroyed. And at first, the post office tried to sweep it under the rug and say, "Oh, we delivered it," and I'm like, "Bull crap!" Because I got video surveillance. Like, bring up the footage of your mailman putting a package that day, and there is none. And
Yeah.
after that, they had to investigate, and they saw that yeah, they mishandled it, and Unfortunately, the guy was out a card and the money because they refunded me the money. So it's his own fault. He should have sent it like insured or something. It was like a
Well,
450.
he definitely should have sent it insured, and he definitely should have sent it better packaged.
Right.
I
So
don't know how you're a seller of high end baseball cards or sports cards, and you send it in a Manila envelope. That's just absurd.
yeah, it's an old timer. He probably wasn't used to doing sales this way.
I've had cards shipped loose. You know, you buy them from antique dealers or something, and they're just loose in there.
Yeah.
And fortunately, I haven't had any damage that way. But it blows my mind that they get here
Right.
in
Right.
one piece. Now, was that a PSA graded card?
It was BVG. It
BVG.
was a BVG 5, but I was like,
Well, do they
it's
have a pop report?
I don't know.
Because we're going to have to adjust it if they do. We got to take one off of there.
Well, that'll be something that you, as hobby president, you can now try to
I'm going to get
give
on
us
that.
those.
So, the other problem I have with the post office is when you get an oversized envelope and it'll say like photo do not bend, and it comes bent over, wrapped in a rubber band with all your mail inside of it. And like magazines, like I get Sports Illustrated for kids for the cards, it'll come folded in half and shoved in the mailbox. So if I get like a higher end photo, I always message the seller and I'm like, listen, I'd appreciate it. Can you please put that in a fold proof package? Because apparently my post office does not understand the words do not bend, and they would just bend it right in half.
Right, right.
It's
Look at this.
ridiculous.
Vintage Goats has had TTMs returned in envelopes that were unsealed. Yikes.
Really?
That's messed up. I don't really deal with TTM, so I can't share in those nightmares, but I could only imagine.
Vintage Goats, where have you been? I haven't heard from you.
So today is going to be a different Wednesday live, right? What's going to be today involving, John?
I don't know. What do you want it to involve?
Well, you're the hobby president now. So we're going to put you under the fire. We want change, man. We want to see, the hobby bouncing back. That's what we want. So,
well, I think the bouncing back from what?
From the downturn it's had, man. I'm telling you, it's been going downhill the last few years.
Well, see, you can look at that in a few different ways. You might view it as a downturn. I view it as a return to some normalcy.
Correction.
I don't think there are no collectors I know that have stopped buying or left the hobby. In fact, I see new YouTube channels popping up daily these days, vintage collectors. I think what you're seeing a mass exodus of are people, paying $30,000 for Justin Herbert cards and that kind of thing. And, going to Target and trying to flip boxes and stuff like that. So to me, that's a positive thing. We're getting some of the what many of us thought were kind of craziness out of the hobby a little bit. A lot of these folks brought a lot of excitement to the hobby, and a lot of positives came from it. And so when we weed out some of the craziness and get back to a little normalcy, then we have a nice merge of us older vintage collectors and the more modern collectors who are, better actors and sane a little bit, in my view. So I think the hobby is going to consolidate a little bit, get back to a little normalcy. Then we can grow from there, and we can grow in a better way.
Right, right. I feel like it has. All right, I don't know if you want to call it a downturn, but I would say it had a boom, obviously, after like 2020, 2021, and the pandemic was part of it because so many people got back into the hobby. And then I guess a lot of people snapped out of what they thought was a great dream and realized it's like fool's gold because they thought they could treat the hobby as an investment. And then that had a correction, like to what you're saying. And then those people are like leaving and jumping ship or whatever you want to call it. But, at the same time, I feel like the hobby wanted to, I guess, go crazy. They thought there was this influx, and they wanted to take advantage of it and overproduce like they did in the 90s. And now we're left with this correction yet overproduction, which is almost like chaos. I don't know, for the collectors that are left behind.
The modern cards, for me at least, are really hard to follow. There's so many of them, and I'm a little overwhelmed. You
Right.
can't know everything about everything, and I don't even know some of these products anymore. I don't know what the pools are. Hey,
Hey,
There goes
George,
George.
what's up?
how's it going, guys?
Good.
Great, great.
I'm
Yeah,
late.
this overproduction, it's like I know so many people, and I'm one of them, who just stop buying unopened material, right? It's like you spend all this money on these boxes, you get nothing. You don't get good pools like you used to. But man, back in the early 2000s when they started inserting, game used cards and cool stuff and auto cards, man, I got so many great pools. It was well worth it. I might not get the value back, 100%, but I got good stuff because I'm a collector. I want to get good stuff. It's not like if I pull something out of a pack, it's not like I'm selling it, so I want to get my money's worth, but I want to get something as a collector that's cool to have.
Right.
And I don't even get that anymore. The only thing you get are base rookie cards and maybe a mojo or something like that. And it's not worth it for the amount of money you're paying for the boxes. I could go on eBay and just buy that card outright. You know what I mean?
I do notice that a lot of people that buy hobby boxes or blasters, you see them ripping it, and they don't see the usual amount of maybe refractors or number cards that they're used to. So
Yep.
then that shows that there's a watering down process where they've overproduced. So it's been thinned out, the amount of hits you could get.
For sure. And then what that does is it creates conspiracy theories, which could be correct. I don't know. But that the breakers are getting all the good boxes because we ain't getting shit as collectors. When you go to Target, you ain't pulling nothing these days.
Yeah.
And these breakers are pulling $1 million cards, $30,000 cards, whatever. They're pulling the good stuff. And so, true or not true, now we have these conspiracy theories that the breakers are getting all the good boxes, right? And then we have the CT scanning on top of that.
Right. Well, my thing is also, like, if you're going to take out less, why are you bumping up the prices? That's
Right.
like a double-edged, double negative. It's like you're raising it up and you're not even giving you the bang for the buck now.
Well, you're right. We're getting it from both ends. We got to pay more to get less.
Exactly.
It's kind of like eggs and groceries. So, George, you still buy new product, right?
Rarely. I mean, it's sometimes. I mean, I buy some new product and I'll kick it to an auction house. I mean, I try to stay with tops, like baseball, Donruss football to some degree. I'm curious. James mentioned this before. I'm not sure if you guys talked about it tonight, but like the Wemby thing with all the parallels of Wemby, it's kind of killing Wemby essentially. And
yes.
Talking about the lack of hits. But with Wemby and these cards, especially Panini stuff, it seems like there's more hits. There's more of everything. There are more numbered cards. And so, we're in this, and you guys know this is junk parallel era. And I feel like there's just a lot of hits that, it's like, how many Wembys are there? There one's numbered to 99, then one's numbered to 98 and 97 and 96. It's just, and it's not just Wemby. It's certainly a lot of the stuff. It's like, I feel like there's just a lot of possibilities of quote hits, but they're not valuable. Like especially Leaf, for example, they have like a 1 of 5 black. I got the Jackson Churio Leaf. I thought was kind of rare. It was a 1 of 5 auto, and it's like there's a black 1 of 5, there's a purple 1 of 5, there's a Katana 1 of 5, and there's a 1 of 4, and there's a 1 of 3, and a 1 of 2. But it's not like tops where you have like you have the gold refractor number to 25. It's it's just all these different parallels, and it's really confusing, frankly. And with Wemby, I'm no longer buying Wemby as a dealer because there's too many of them.
Right.
Yeah, so my thoughts on that Wemby situation is they're doing what they did in the late 80s, early 90s, where you pull a rookie card and so what? Like everybody has it. It's never going to be worth anything. I mean, it wasn't until the COVID boom that Ken Griffey Jr.'s rookie cards were worth anything. And that
Right.
was only because they were signed or in a 10, right? When the grading thing started with COVID, where, you started paying up for these things. But we all know those were overproduced and you couldn't give them away in the old days. I mean, Ken Griffey Jr. was $30.
Right.
And that's why. It's not because he wasn't a great player. It's not because it's not a great card. It's just because it's overproduced. And I fear that's what they're doing with Wemby. What do you say, James?
I agree. I think Chipper Jones is the perfect example.
Yeah.
Show me the Chipper Jones rookie card that's great to own other than the Desert Shield. And it has to be a Desert Shield or else they're all $1.
Yep.
Like, none of them are over $1. And even the 10s, it's like, all right, it's what, $100 card? Like, it's not an amazing card. But the Desert Shield has to have that stamp on it for it to have some substance to it, like a Tiffany or something.
Yeah. I mean, collectors are drawn to the scarcity. It's just fact.
Mm-hmm.
Now, that doesn't mean that all scarce or rare cards have value. But if you want a player like in the late 80s, in the 90s, everybody wants the rare ones because there's so few of them. Everything else is so mass produced.
Yeah.
And I mean, it makes sense why the kaboomies are so popular. They don't mess around. You just chase that kaboomy. There's not a kaboomy purple, a black, a this, a that, a blah, blah, blah.
I was just going to say, to George's point with the Wemby, I just ended up buying with my friend Bill a zebra print Wemby rookie card because it's a zebra and that one's like to 25, and even though it doesn't have the parallel number on it, but everyone knows it's a case hit. It's really rare. Plus, it was the courtside, which is the rarest one. There's like different levels of the select, and to have the zebra in that one is the most expensive one. So we felt comfortable to pick that one up. But if it wasn't for that, it would have had to be something like you said, a kaboom or something.
Yeah, take for example, the most popular person in the hobby, Shohei Ohtani. Mm-hmm. I'm at a Arizona State card show this last weekend. This guy comes up to me, gray hair, and he's got his younger, I think maybe grandson runs off, and he's looking at some Ohtanis. I just have some base Ohtanis and 10s. And he looks down, and there's like 4 different ones. And they're just like in the basic Topps ones, Topps update. And he says, is that the Ohtani rookie card? Well, I said, yes. And he says, well, what about that one to the right? Is that the Ohtani rookie? I said, yes. The one to the left, yes. And so I said to him, he says, well, which one is the real rookie? I said, like without going into making a joke, I could say, he's got so many and I don't know. And I said, probably, the base rookie might be the Series 2. But, he said, is that the one where he's pitching? And I said, yeah, but there's a photo variation where he's just got a regular shirt on. He says, oh, is that the rarest one? Or I said, no, there's a hand-on helmet photo variation as well. And that one, there's only 66 graded. And he looks at me and he's like, what's grading? And I was like, I don't know. To explain this to an old guy, it's hard. And we're all old guys, kind of. But it's just, it's not like, hey, this is the rookie. And, there's a derivation. There's a mini. This is the mini. Right. But like, you have these guys come up and they're confused. And part of it, there's a rookie. That's a rookie. No argument.
Rookie cards don't matter anymore.
Exactly.
I mean, it's almost like they don't. There are just so many. Like, there are so many cards to buy and to collect. Let's say that you just wanted to collect Ohtani. It would probably cost you more than I have in my whole room here to just collect one player of all the modern cards these days. If you just chased parallels and numbered cards and autograph cards and those kinds of things, it's a bit ridiculous. Didn't they say that there were over 5,000 one-of-one Lawrence cards, rookie cards, when he came up?
Yeah, there's a lot. There's a
I
lot.
had heard somebody say there were over 5,000 one-of-ones or numbered cards, something.
I wouldn't doubt that. Isn't it ironic that the Trevor Lawrence you just referred to and all of his great rookie cards and how he was so hot, and now the guy who's playing and backing him up and starting in his place is Mac Jones, who is also so hot.
Yeah.
It's just like, I mean, it's just amazing how many different rookie cards.
There are so few quarterbacks throughout history that come up and are truly special that it blows my mind how people will pay these top dollars every single year for rookie quarterbacks, even if they, have a good year or two. I mean, look at Kaepernick. He broke the rushing mark, took San Francisco to the Super Bowl. They lost, but he took them there in his rookie season. And a few years later, couldn't complete a pass to save his life. And you have other guys who have been in the league. Mark Ripken came up, won a Super Bowl. That was the last you heard of him. The quarterback for Carolina came up, won a Super Bowl. That was the last you heard of him. So even if they have a good year or two, the collectability factor and the long-term value is still not going to be there. And so for you to price every single rookie quarterback like they're the next Tom Brady or better is just insane. And then you have a guy like Patrick Mahomes, clearly the best quarterback since Brady, and you have rookies selling for more than his cards. It just doesn't make any sense. He's already won how many Super Bowls?
And he's having the worst statistical season of his young career, and his team is undefeated.
Yeah.
I just wanted to state before we keep going, I put up the links. We're going to have an open forum today. So whether you want to just shoot out questions throughout the live stream or jump on in, as long as as long as you are, well-mannered. That's what let's try to keep it well-mannered. But
don't be like Mike Petty. I mean, for crying out loud.
We are inviting everyone to come in, chime in, and speak to the president. This is for the presidential forum here, and let him know how we could make this hobby great again.
And how we're going to make it great again. And I have everybody doing that contest. If you haven't seen my contest, I urge you, I'm giving away a good card to check out the contest video and participate. Is all of us just speaking out, giving our opinions on things. It's a total community effort to make the hobby great. The hobby is us. Each one of us is the hobby, no matter what your realm is.
Right. Well said. Well said. I mean, I love some of the most recent one that Dylan had. He went into a nice little, not an argument, but he was saying how he feels like the hobby will always be in a good place. It always corrects itself. And I love that mentality because he doesn't think there's anything wrong. Like, we ultimately are going to be the ones to dictate how this hobby is going to be. And as we should, our money's the power.
Money is the power. If everybody, a company screws us over, and historically we just keep using them. We pay whatever they ask. And we make them bigger and bigger. It's our own fault. You can't complain about stuff. I see all these people that bitch about PSA. They do a rant video going off, and then they're talking about their next submission. It's like ridiculous.
It's true.
I mean, it's okay, but don't rant about it. Don't complain about it if you're going to still use them. We can't complain about boxes if we're still going to buy them.
I'm going to give a shout out here to one of my guys I like on YouTube is Talking Ball Cards, Paparazzi, and he always does PSA reveals. But he's the one, as far as I know, who coined the term "please submit again." That's what it is. He goes through and he is just really dry and funny about these submissions and how they just, how they treat you. But we're all beholden to them because, they're the big dog, essentially. I mean, obviously we have other choices, but it's just, it's
PSA is like the DMV. Nobody wants to deal with them, but we all go there anyway.
And one thing I noticed is like we put our money and it's our power. We decide where we want to put it into. Look at Beckett. These guys were the second dog. Like when
Yep.
I first got into the hobby,
They were the first dog for modern at one time.
yeah. And then now they're the last dog. Like nobody wants to
Do you
submit.
think we could buy them?
I think
They're probably super cheap.
They'll
I
pay
mean, come
us
on.
to take over.
It's a shame to watch a company like that. What happened to it? It's just a damn shame.
I like their business model as far as like the transparency. I love that about them. Unfortunately, they charged a little much more than what you expected, and their turnaround time was just horrible.
Let me ask you guys about this. I was having a conversation about this at a show about I had this Jordan card, and it was a jersey card. It's a dual jersey card, numbered to 50. It's called Reflections.
Okay.
Fabric Reflections. Anyway, it's not PSA is going to destroy it because they destroy these kinds of cards, and I mean destroy it in the sense that they're going to give it like a 7. It's really not a 7. It's probably like an 8.5 to a 9. So I was thinking about sending it to SGC, and then I talked to a dealer to show, and he had a lot of Beckett, modern Beckett slabs, modern jersey cards, Mahomes RPAs, and he looked at me like I was an idiot and says, "Don't you dare send that to SGC. Send that to Beckett. Beckett does really well on these thick, modern cards. The sales are good." And I thought to myself, he's probably right. I haven't seen a lot of modern product that's like RPAs and things like that, or jersey cards in SGC holders. What do you guys think?
Well, first of all, for anybody who's like me and doesn't know what you're talking about, what's an RPA?
Rookie patch auto.
Oh, okay.
Rookie patch auto. Like the guy had tons of Mahomes stuff, and he showed me a Mahomes SGC RPA. So it's like it's got a Chiefs patch, it's got a Mahomes auto, and it's 2017. And he says this thing, it was an SGC like 9, autograph 9, and he said, well, that card would be better in a Beckett holder. What's the Jordan card cost ungraded? I don't know. I think the card is probably somewhere around a $300 card, maybe $250 to $400. But obviously, if it gets a good grade, it's somewhere to 50. Then people like slab jersey cards. They just do. James can can attest to that. So I guess what I'm asking is, do you guys think that there's a home for Beckett in this area? What do you think, James?
I was going to suggest that before you said that. From what I know of, Beckett is the place to go to for the patches because they're a little bit kinder. Just like they say SGC is more consistent, but PSA gives you the most bang for your buck. Beckett, as much as I don't like to give them my money anymore, if it's about business, then I'm going to send it to them and hope I get it back within a couple months. Something, understandable. Hopefully it's not 4 or 6 months. But with Jordan, I wouldn't mind because, that card's going to be great no matter if you get it 6 months from now. It's going to still hold its value. It's not like a rookie card you got to strike the irons hot.
He's not going to break his ankle again.
No. He's solid gold, man. His auto, everything of his is solid gold. I see Adam's card closet is in the house. Dude, if you want to get on this forum, I love Adam, one of my favorite channels. He's always a great guy. Get on. It's an open forum. Anyone else who wants to get on, get on. We want to hear some fresh perspectives. That's what we want to hear. Look at this. Ron Burgundy, El Presidente. I wonder how many votes you got, John. Do you know?
It was, I think, 15,000.
Wow.
So were half of those from 4-leaf?
Half of them were from 4-leaf, yeah, I think.
They're asking if you saw Denny's video.
Yes, I did. I shared it.
Yeah.
It was well done.
Which was your favorite video so far?
I just was introduced to him. I never knew who he was before. I didn't even know he was on the presidential list. A lot of those guys, I to be honest, I never heard of.
So, which was your favorite video so far?
Well, you know what? I'm gonna have a lot. You mean on my response?
Yeah, yeah.
I'm gonna have a live, and we're gonna discuss it.
Oh, okay.
So I'm gonna have everybody come on. We're gonna have some talking points. We're gonna go over the ideas from everybody's videos. The common. I want to talk about what points people made that were pretty common amongst many videos, and some exceptional ideas that pop out as I'm watching. So I'm gonna make a big live event about it when I announce the winner.
My my thing that I would love for you to do is if you could get a meeting with one of the big wigs with fanatics and have a sit down with them and maybe advise them on what the collectors want and some of their complaints are, and just have a nice little round table with their big wigs. And
Well, if I was the CEO, or I ran Fanatics, or any hobby company really, I would set up an advisory board of hobbyists, and I would have that done routinely, twice a year, once a quarter. And when I ran my business, I did that with my customers, and I would have a roundtable. Tell me what we're doing right. Tell me what we're doing wrong. What do you want to see? It just makes real sense. I mean, we're their customers. You would think they would want to hear from us.
right, right.
Unfortunately, I think they only hear from a certain segment of the hobby.
Or they're the board meetings where they're saying, well, how can we get more money? How can we get our numbers up? And they're not worried about the collectors.
Yeah, I'm not so sure that overproducing and giving people lesser of an experience with opening new product is the correct way to go. It might make you a little more money in the short term, but I don't believe that that's beneficial to you for the long term. Because if the 90 crash happens now, I mean, it's going to be 1,000-fold. Number one, for the amount of money everybody will be down, and the amount of money that's thrown around these days. And number two, for all these massive millions of cards floating around out there that nobody may want. I mean, it might be another situation where everybody's on Craigslist posting pictures of their garage with 10 million cards still in unopened boxes that nobody wants, that they can't
Right.
give away.
Speaking of that, I have like a Craigslist advertisement here running in Phoenix for buying sports cards. And I was joking with a friend the other night, and I got a text on my phone, hey, got some sports cards. I said, send over a picture. And I said to him, where's my son's baseball game? I turned around and I said, listen, I bet this is going to be some cards that are football or baseball. It's definitely not going to be basketball, from 1991 to or 1989, probably 90 to 93. And sure as shit, it's a binder. It's 4 or 5 pictures of football and baseball. And I'm going through the guys' names, and I'm like, I'm just trying to think of a player. But the best card in there was like a Tom Glavine rookie from 1988. And it's like this, everybody, this happens all the time. It happens all the time to you, James, probably too. People have all these binders.
It happens to me too. Just people say, hey, do I have anything here? Oh, I have all these cards. They're all in mint condition.
Yeah. Do you have any vintage? And they say, yeah, I got 1990. I got one.
Well, they don't know what our term of vintage is, and it's a shame. There are some great cards in those years, but you just can't pay for them because they're not worth anything. And then the guy get them anywhere, and most of us already have them anyway.
Yeah, he's got a couple binders. I say, no, thank you. And he says, I just want to get rid of it for $50. And I say, no, thank you.
Yeah, I mean, they're not even worth that.
The amount of space it takes is not worth 15 cents. It's terrible. But that's where we're at now with all this stuff to some degree.
Well, don't you think that's where we are with base cards?
Yes, definitely.
I mean, nobody wants a base card anymore.
Well,
and I know there are some purists, and I have plenty of base cards, myself included. But for the most part,
the base cards are only as good as the players they're printed of. So when you have a base card of Mike Trout, even though there's a lot of them, people still want them, even now, even though the demand is diminishing. But I mean, those late 80s, early 90s players, there isn't a big demand other than Griffey. Griffey captured the imagination. So it doesn't mean they could still print the Upper Deck Griffey rookie, and people still be wanting to get that. As a matter of fact, I made a big trade this weekend, and the linchpin was an '89 Griffey for the second time in the last 3 months.
Is that right?
Yeah, it was a PSA 9 Upper Deck Griffey. It's like a $200 card, and we're like locked in a. He's taken a few cards. It was a deal for a 53 SGC Willie Mays, and I was getting the Mays, and I was trading him a few like 66 Mantles and some money, and we were stuck. And then he's a little younger than me, and he looks over. He's like, "What about the Griffey?" I said, "I'll throw the Griffey in, bro."
Well, so what do you think if they did a documentary of Griffey like they did of Michael Jordan? Man, his cards would run, even if there's they're printed overproduced.
Recently, I don't know if we talked about this before, but the Rickwood Field, Negro League game they had this year. Before that, they had CC Sabathia as the captain of one team, and Ryan Howard, I believe, as the captain of another. And they were dressing all in. This is like the day before or something, and they were going to play a celebrity softball game with four major leaguers. And these guys were all Sabathia's age and younger, but no longer in the league. And they went and did a line. I watched a documentary about it of all these ball players that were probably about 45 years old and younger. And they asked him who their favorite player was. And one of them answered Satchel Paige. One answered Josh Gibson. There were a couple Jackie Robinsons. And then it was Ken Griffey Jr.
Yeah.
It was like they're going from one player to another. Ken Griffey Jr., Ken Griffey Jr., Ken Griffey. And they get to the end, and all of a sudden Jr. walks out and says hello to me. And they just shit their pants. They're like, oh, my God. So he's just likable still. He's still involved in the game. He's still relevant, and his fame just continues. He's amazing.
Yeah, for anybody that's too young to have watched him, I mean, he was like Michael Jordan, man. He had that it factor. He could do it all, and he was certainly a superstar. And a household name. I mean, you could talk to a woman who never watched a game before.
How many kids
she would have heard of Ken Griffey Jr.
playing? James is wearing his hat backwards right now.
Yeah.
No bullshit. Like,
he had that swag, and he was such a smooth fielder and had that beautiful swing, and he was good. He was great.
Do you know I saw recently why he wears his hat backward? Do you know why?
No, why?
It's because he used to wear his father's hat, which was too big for him when he was a kid. And the only way he could keep it on his head was by wearing it backwards. The wheel didn't flop over his head.
And he wouldn't be able to see.
And that's the way he was able to play with his father's hat, who he idolized. And he got used to wearing the hat backward, even when he got a hat that fit him.
Well, I'll tell you, the only thing I didn't like about when Ken Griffey Jr. came into the league was that his father, when I was real little, was one of my favorite all-time players. I loved his father. And when he came into the league, I mean, nobody wanted a Ken Griffey card anymore. Like, nobody talked about Ken Griffey at all. He got totally overshadowed by Junior. But I really liked his father with the Reds, man. I collected all his stuff.
I mean, that kid grew up around like one of the greatest teams of all time.
Yes, no doubt. That is definitely one of the greatest teams of all time.
With different personalities,
I gotta ask though, like, do you think Griffey was in that one space where everything was just right, where cable was coming in, ESPN, and they would and then sneaker endorsements were starting to become popular, and cards were starting to flourish. Like, it was just that right moment where it wasn't oversaturated, but it was just enough exposure with the commercials where people were getting commercials.
Well, you are correct. I think it was really three main things. Number one, you could watch baseball games all the time on TV, which you couldn't always do that. And number two, ESPN. It was hitting its peak at that time. And you could watch him every single night, his highlights. And then number three, his rookie card was making news and everything. Everybody knew about this rookie card, So I think it's really kind of threefold there. And then you have a guy with his abilities and the way he played. And playing in Seattle back then was not exactly, people that played in Seattle weren't household names like he was. And then he played so hard, and he would bounce off the wall, hurt himself. He played fearlessly. And yeah, people just drew to him.
Right. Peter B says Bo knows. Bo's another one where
Yeah.
he was right at that moment where everything just culminated at the same time, and he became larger than life. Aside from the fact that he's probably the greatest athlete, I mean, ever. I mean, probably Shohei is right up there right now. We're witnessing him do everything, but
Yeah, I
Bo,
mean, if you think about that time, you had Magic and Bird and Michael Jordan in their primes, making, just tearing it up, and there was just so much excitement at the time. Wayne Gretzky was going to L.A. Kings, and there was a lot of just so much fun stuff, and Bo knows, and those commercials, and it was a fun time to be a sports fan, man. A fun time.
right? I mean, think of all the
And
greats,
all the sports.
right? But
And let me tell you this, everybody knew somebody, players from all the sports.
that's what I was about
Unlike
to
today,
say.
many people can't name a hockey player today. Or
Right.
you know.
Every sport had someone. Wayne Gretzky in hockey and basketball, you had Jordan. In boxing, you had Tyson. In baseball, you had Griffey, you had Bo. Like every sport had a larger than life figure that you could point to and say, whoa, now that guy's transcending, you know?
Yeah, I mean, you can even go to track like Carl Lewis and guys like that. I can't remember the exact time frame, but there was just it was a wonderful time to be a sports fan. Now I find myself a little overwhelmed. Um, I don't know what to watch. We have so many choices, so many channels and stuff. Back then, you had like a few channels, and you didn't have a choice, just flipping through.
Yeah,
And then ESPN is nowhere near what it used to be. And if you were a sports fan, man, you put on Sports Center. You could watch ESPN all day and night. And they had ESPN2 with all the old classic stuff. And now I get that kind of content on YouTube more than anything.
yeah. It's like with the movie Dodgeball, making fun of all the ESPNs and having Dodgeball being on the Ocho.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's and that's years ago, certainly, but that's where we've come.
Yeah.
We're just, I remember sitting in a bar when I was first like 21 watching World's Strongest Man. It's like, you're like, what else is going to be on? And we grew up with
Yeah.
roller derby and stuff like that. But
I
with
used to watch
baseball-
kayak racing and watch them flip
Yeah.
over, and Wide World of Sports, and watch all kind of sports I'd never watched before.
Yeah, but
Because
now
we
it's
didn't have
more
that much to watch.
saturated.
You watch stuff just by default. You catch it, and you got to know a lot of the old sports people. Like the King and his court would be on, or you got to watch This Week in Baseball, or the Wide World of Sports, whatever event.
You remember George Michael's Sports Machine? That was always.
I don't remember that one.
No, Channel 4, I believe it was.
I used to watch drag racing.
Drag racing, yeah. I mean,
That's why I like to collect the old sugar daddy cards from the mid '70s. They made them multiple years, but I think '76 is my favorite. But it has all the different sports and athletes at that time.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember getting those as a little kid, and so they're very nostalgic to me.
Yeah, look at Mike. He used to watch that. Sundays was can't miss because he used to do his plays of the week, and you had to see what was the plays of the week. So Sundays were can't miss.
I miss MTV too. Do you remember? You guys remember when they used to have music?
Music videos, yeah.
I mean, they actually had music. It was called Music TV, and we had Yo MTV Raps, and
Right,
you had there was something for metal. What was that
Headbanger-
called?
Headbangers Ball.
Hey,
With Ricky
Headbangers
Rackman,
Ball.
don't forget.
They had something for everybody on there, and if you had your friends over for a party or whatever, you'd put that on in the background and just have videos all night.
Yeah. Dudes, I just want to tell you, if you guys want to turn on your phone, the link is in there. We're inviting all for an open forum. Let's chop it up with the president and let him know, give him your 2 cents on how you want this hobby to be greater. Let's challenge him.
Or just jump on and say hi and share your thoughts.
and we don't bite.
Nobody wants to join us.
I know. Or you could put questions, and let's not hold back. Hit him with some hard questions. So he's looking to answer some questions. Let's have some fun with this, guys. So George, what would you change right now, like pet peeves in the hobby, like that you could think of offhand?
Well, I mean, I actually have a lot of positive thoughts about the hobby, but it seems very healthy. There's a lot of people coming to shows. Again, the show last weekend. Yeah, I guess I would probably say the all the flipping of the young people. I'd like them to just open cards, enjoy cards. This all this trade up challenge constantly. These kids are coming up to do a trade up challenge, and if they get a sucker like I used to, I mean, I'll give them cards or whatever. And it's funny, they'll come up to you and recently they've come to you with like more expensive cards, a card that's $150 or something. What do you give me for this? I say, first of all, where'd you get it? And they say, oh, I got it from a trade up challenge. And I'm like, well, get out of here. I'm not going to give you anything. Like, it's like this whole idea of, I mean, I understand it's capitalistic and you're trading up, but it would be nice. It would be nice to like have people, hey, Mike, how you doing?
Mike.
Hey, Mike's our first guy to jump on. Welcome.
Look at that. It would be nice to have kids just collecting just to collect. And I try to give them packs at my booth. I just give them free packs and open some cards, find something you like. And please don't go train your slime Wemby to go and, flip it for something else.
Right.
But we have to officially announce the ambassador to the hobby, Mike.
I serve at the pleasure. Thank you.
Mike, how you been?
I'm good, James. How are you?
Great. Good to see you again.
I haven't seen George in a while. He doesn't like me anymore or something. I don't know.
I haven't had an invite. I haven't had an invite on Golden Age ever since we did the Rod Caruth showdown. It's been crickets.
I haven't done.
And in his defense, he does only make 2 videos a year these days.
I do. I haven't done a Golden Age in about 2.5 months. So
I know. They'll be clamoring.
Yeah, maybe you and I should just. It's funny how as you do content longer and longer, you just get it. You do an idea for a while, and then you kind of okay. I've done that like multiple things, and that's okay. I don't. I love doing it while I did it. Right now, I'm in the, beating the pants off of Chris every week on Showcase Showdown. And we're having a lot of fun with that. And it's fun showing runs. It's fun showing cards I don't take out all the time and grab, Bob Feller or, just guys that I don't normally get their cards out and take a look. And Larry Doby's next week. That's awesome. One of your favorites, George, I know. So, yeah. We've actually filmed all of the rest of season 3. It's already done. So I've got Showcase Showdown episodes going through into December already queued up. So,
well, I'll tell you, everybody knows I'm not the hugest fan of numbers on my cards, but I do watch all those episodes. They're fun.
And the good thing is Chris helped stabilize the vintage market because he's been buying to try to.
Oh my God! You must have cost that guy so much money. He's always making these videos. Well, I had to buy this so I could play the game.
Yeah,
and then ridiculous. I see him picking up in every video now cards, and he's like, "Well, now I have a graded one. I didn't have a graded one. Now I have a graded one." And I'm assuming that's to play the game.
I think that I don't know if that's good for. I don't think collectors have to think that way. For sure. But I like graded cards. I'm not going to lie. And I'm going to own that. George does too. James does. I mean, you do too, John. You don't have to have it graded, but you don't mind that it's graded if it is, right?
Well, I'm not knocking that. What I'm saying is he's buying second cards.
Yeah.
He doesn't have his graded, or it's not high enough grade if he graded it, so he can play that game with you.
We did.
Yeah, that's funny. You guys are so competitive.
We did Whitey Ford, and he's like, this was off air, and he's like, God, Whitey Ford was the season finale. I won't tell you who won, but I I said I wouldn't tell you who won. Didn't say I wouldn't indicate. No, he's like, I had this 19. He has like a 60 tops in like an 8 or something, and he's like, yeah, I didn't even know. I forgot I had that. I bought it. He'd bought it twice before already in the last few weeks just to get ready for Whitey Ford because he knew Whitey Ford was on the wheel. So he has multiples in different grades, but he also sells, so it won't be a problem with him. Those are not hard cards to get rid of.
Yeah, I got a Whitey Ford alert. I picked this up at the show this weekend.
60 Whitey Ford. There you go. Autographed. Oh my gosh.
The guy had a bunch of Yankees cards autographed.
What does that run you?
I just bought a lot of them off this guy in a Mantle ball. The story was good. He had a real story that like made sense. Like he got the autographs at some Yankees like meeting in Scottsdale in 1985, and he even had the program from it. And the guy was like his late 70s, and this Mantle ball had been in one of those holders, plastic holders, since 1985. It was a Bobby Brown ball, and I pulled it out, and it was pure white, just white, and it smelled still like leather. It was amazing. But, just like anything, you guys ask, where'd you get it from,
Well, you mentioned that, and I always laugh because the most expensive card ever auctioned was in a screw down case they tell you not to use, raw, for 30 years, and then graded by SGC, who they tell you not to use if you want to sell your card. And so the two highest selling cards now were both in SGC slabs.
You're talking about the 52 Mantle. What was it?
Yeah, I got a 9.5, sold for 12.3 million.
Mr. Mint Rosen.
That thing was in a screw down for 30 years. And it was raw. Nobody would have even bought it. If you put it on eBay, nobody would have bought it. They would have. If you put it on Facebook, everybody would have been saying how it was fake. I find that hilarious.
But if you buy it on eBay, then you can get it authenticated through their authentication service, right?
Yeah, sure. I'm just saying, like, if you posted it, if you ever go onto Facebook pages, no matter what card you post, I mean, somebody will say it's fake.
How do you guys
no matter
feel?
what?
I got a question for the panel. This esteemed panel that we've assembled here. I got a card right now that just got authenticated with, bought it on eBay, right? It goes to California and coming to me now. And I don't know how I feel about the authentication service. Is it feel necessary, or is it? I don't know.
Let me answer that. I
yes,
hate
Mr.
it.
President. Yes, Mr.
I
President.
hate it, but it is there to protect the seller. And I get that. Because if I have a $9,000 card coming to mail and I say it wasn't in there, what do you do as the seller? Because eBay generally protects the buyer.
Right.
So this way, when you send it out there, number one, it protects you. Like I've had a couple with they refused to authenticate, saying that it was misrepresented. And like the one had a scratch on the holder that wasn't visible in the picture. So they wouldn't authenticate it. And I ended up buying it from them anyway. I didn't care about that. And it was so minor. But, and it's in a holder. It's an SGC graded card in this case. But, it's really to protect the seller. And I, even though I hate it, I understand that aspect of it. Because there are a lot of unscrupulous people. I can, I got a big card the other day and I had my wife video me opening it. Because what if it's not in there? They could send me a 1988 Topps card and claim they sent this card to me. How would I prove they didn't?
Yeah. I got a guy last week. I had a card coming to me. It was a super cheap card, and he sent me the wrong card. And I don't know if you've had this happen. I don't know if you've had this happen, John, but I wrote him on eBay and I said, hey, sent him a picture. He sent me who's that Brewers prospect? I don't know. Some prospect card from Bowman Chrome, which of course I didn't order that. So I'd ordered an 87 Topps Ted Simmons, which of course everybody needs in a PSA 9 like I did. And so I get the wrong card. I send him a picture and he replies back, hey, Mike, just keep that card. I'll try to get the other one or I'll send you a refund. and can you do a video about this? And I'm like, I guess he knows who I mean, like,
Yeah.
I don't know who he is. And he was nice. He ended up getting the card back from the other guy. I ended up returning the card. Then I had to rebuy it from him. He relisted it at I paid $8 for it or something. I mean, like, seriously, it was super cheap. So I ended up paying $8 for it. And I think the original price was $12.99 or something. So ended up paying $8, and it's on the way to me now. But I don't know. It's kind of funny when a guy goes, "Hey, make a video about how good of a seller I am." What's that, George?
You now just made a video about it.
I did, I guess, technically.
Oh,
Consider it done.
The circle is complete.
Promise
I've had people, say, "Hey, I watch your channel. I'm a big fan," and then they say, "I'll send you a new one" or whatever. Maybe hoping for that. I've never had anybody come out directly and say that, though.
Yeah,
and I've
yeah.
had, if you buy on eBay, oftentimes, and mistakes happen, I never get upset about it, but sometimes you'll get the wrong card. Like, they sent me the one card and they sent somebody else the other card, and I've never had a problem where I didn't get the card. Like, sometimes they'll say, "Hey, I'll give you a label. Do you mind sending it to them?" And they're going to send that card to you or whatever. Or sometimes they'll just say, "Hey, I did send you the wrong one. I still have it. Keep that one, and I'll send you a new one." That just happened to me.
Yeah.
Mistakes happen. As long as they're cool about it, I'm cool about it.
Well,
George, I got a card you'll like. You want to see?
Well, yes.
A little Randy Johnson and a Diamondbacks.
Nice.
Oh, God. George loves that.
Diamondbacks.
Gold number to 10.
5-star. Very nice.
You know that's George's favorite player next to Jake the Snake Plumber.
Well, I mean, to answer your question, Mike, it saved me having to go through a 2-3 week, maybe a month-long hassle where I won a bid for Eddie Matthews rookie card, and it was a 4 figures, but it was raw. And in its raw state, they can assess whether it's authentic or not. So it's like getting a card authenticated, and it wasn't. So it got kicked back. They returned me my money, and now the hunt continued for Matthews, which I eventually ended up getting at the National. But it forced me I couldn't get it the cheap route, which was, trying to get one raw. I had to buy one PSA authenticated with a number one to my liking. But yeah, had they didn't have that service, it would have been like 3 weeks possibly, showing proof I never received it or that it's fake and I didn't do a switcheroo or anything like that.
This is a learning moment. How you couldn't tell it was fake?
Well, not me, but I'm just saying, like, let's say I get it and I know it's fake, and I ask for a refund and the guy says I switched it or something.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It protects the seller.
Well,
Right.
And it protects the buyer, especially with raw cards.
What I've done in the past, though, is like, I'm talking about, this is like 10, 15 years ago. If he bought a card, I would get back when PSA was more reasonable. I would get a card like a 50 Bowman Jackie, buy it raw, and then I would send it off to PSA on a quick service, right? So I'd get it back, or at least the grade would pop within a reasonable period of time, within the 30-day return window or whatever the window was. I did that with the 48 Bowman Stan Musial, but then it went away, and then the returns were like within 7 days, and PSA then slowed down their turnaround time. And so then we were kind of left out in the lurch. And a lot of collectors.
I'll be right back.
I'm not saying that we're like Buddhas on the mountaintop telling fake cards and real cards, but some collectors just haven't seen enough cards to be able to tell.
Yeah. Yeah,
And
no doubt.
Service does a really, I actually am a fan of the service, just like you said, John, for the same reasons you said, John, as long as they don't charge me for it as a seller.
Yeah, I mean, I hate it with graded cards. I find it, silly, other than the fact, again, to protect the seller. And, the thing is I've been buying on eBay since the 90s. And, that could always be the case where somebody sends you something and says, they sent you something else. But I never once encountered it. And the feedback system and everything on eBay kind of protects against that a little bit, because you're not going to be on eBay very long if you're doing that kind of stuff.
True.
Now it happens more on like Facebook, where you rip a few people off and then you shut down your account. You open a new account with a different name. I've seen that happen many, many times, especially back around 2016-ish, 17-ish. There were a lot of scammers on there. But the feedback system on eBay kind of prevents that a little bit. And I've never once had somebody do that. So when they came up with this authentication, to me, it's just a pain in the ass, and I got to wait 3 weeks to get my card. Well, if I'm buying a $200 SGC card from a reputable seller, I don't want it going to California. It's just another chance for it to get lost or hurt in the mail.
Yeah.
Not hurt, damaged, or who knows what happens, or the authenticator. I mean, the way they send this stuff back is absolute shit. They don't take pride in their work. If you get I have two here now. There's debris in both of the holders on two rare cards. There's debris in both the holders. They're in these shit sleeves that I don't even know what these are. They're half in, half out. And they put these on, and you're not supposed to take them out.
Just rip them off right now for us.
Well, I mean, I will, and I always do. But I might leave them like this if they were presented well. They don't even use new semi-rigids. They're like beat up, like they all have gunk on them and stuff. And there's always a hair or debris or some shit inside. And it just blows my mind. It's like, do you not take any pride in your work whatsoever? Because I'm very particular about when I put it in, it's got to be centered. I put a little sleeve over it, because I love my raw cards, but it's just absurd. And then you get an oversized package. It comes in some baggie that looks like crap folded over, taped. And, you're never going to keep it in that. It looks like crap. So why even do it?
I would love to see them hire PSA to review the raw ones and to give you an option to grade it as they're looking it over.
Well, tell me if you guys know anything about this. I heard very recently from a very reliable source that if the card is over, I think it was $500, and if you are representing a grade, like you say it's X Mint or it's VGX, when you send it for authentication, they will also grade the raw card. If it does not meet their specs, then they will allow you to cancel the transaction. And I will give you a specific example.
That's awesome.
That would be great.
From our friend.
Because you can't always see a little crease in a picture. Sometimes that picture looks perfect, and then you get the card and it's creased, or it's faded and you didn't realize.
I'm not calling anybody out, but this seller, my good friend bought a 52 Willie Mays that was represented as X Mint off of this seller from New Jersey. Rhymes with Frankenstein. But anyway, so he bought this card.
Don't even get me started on that.
And it was raw, like Greg Morris grades raw cards too. And got it. Went to the authenticator. And my friend said, this card, I'm buying this card, but it looks like it might be a little bit overgraded. And of course, Frankenstein did not get back to him, ignored his email. And so then he got a word from eBay that this card was, in their opinion, not X Mint. It was around VGX. And he canceled the transaction. So anyway, this is happening. And this card was probably a four-figure card. But this stuff is now happening. And I know PSA has an office in New Jersey for the same stuff and in California. So hopefully, John, for you don't have to you can ship it to New Jersey and then it comes to you. But
that would be wonderful, because I'm on the East Coast. I buy something from a guy one state above me. It has to go the whole way to California, wait a day or two to get authenticated, then the whole way back. It takes forever. I have, I think, 4 cards there now. Like it's ridiculous.
Well, George, I mean, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you
No,
off.
that's all right.
But George, you could see possibly a scenario where a lot of cards get kicked back because let's say it's some old timer that loves his collection. And you know how people, when they're in love, they're passionate about their collection, they overvalue what they have. And I mean, I'm at fault. If I love a card and I think it's a 5, or when it comes back a 4 or 3.5, I'm like, what the hell happened? But I
Yeah.
love that card. So I might overstate how beautiful it is,
Yeah,
or great
absolutely.
it should be. So you could see a lot of cards being refunded. Like,
Well,
I think, I mean, in the modern era though, like we're pretty good at grading cards these days. It's not like in the old days where everything was mint, right? Oh, it's in mint condition. Everything was mint. And I think that most of us would be very honest. We'd be like, look, this is probably a 4 or 5, but man, does it present great. Like it's a beautiful card.
yeah.
Well, they give you the option to accept or reject it when they and I had another experience I'll tell you about, but it's harder with a raw card. But like I had a case where I bought a Beckett Clemente rookie and a Beckett 55 Clemente and a 55 Ted Williams, both Beckett slabbed. This coin dealer came across these Beckett slabs. It was on auction. And so what happened what happened is there's Mike Petty going after it again. What happened was they gave me an option because the Ted Williams the case was cracked. And they said, and the Clemente was cracked a little bit. And I said, fine, I don't want the Ted Williams, but I want the Clemente no matter what. So I'll give you an option. But this is the problem with raw cards. With raw cards, like my buddy bought from Frankenstein, that card, he won't have it in hand to give his assessment of it until he accepts the transaction.
Yeah.
So, you just have to say, well, I'm not going to accept it if they don't think it's the right grade, even if you think you can disclaim this still.
Yeah, well, I mean, if it came back and hey, if I'm buying from them, I'm gonna assume it's overgraded to begin with, so I'm gonna pay a price based on that knowledge or that idea at least. And if it comes back, I mean, it's still a pretty good grade and a top card, and you already know what it looks like. You've seen the scans, so unless there's in that grade, there's probably not a crease or anything in it. So it just depends on what you paid for it.
Yeah.
Because if I paid a decent amount that I'm comfortable with, I would still accept that card. If I loved it, if I love the image and it's, 1 or 2 grades lower, because for me, I'm not caring about that unless, I would have, I paid too much based on that grade. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I will pay up for good looking cards too.
But
and at least I know it's real and I know I love the look of it. That's why I bought it. And I might still accept it.
But there are cases where people use scanners and not a picture, and they don't get the right sheen on it to show you like the hairline wrinkle, and the scanner is going to make it look like it's flawless. And then when you get it, you start seeing it, and you're like, "Oh, all the imperfections."
Yeah, well, but if they graded it and they said it's a 5, it can't have a crease in it.
No, but
right?
I mean,
That's what I'm saying.
When you buy from
Frankenstein
or whatever,
and
they don't disclose it has a little wrinkle in it or something, you're just looking at the eye appeal. And if they use scanners, you're not going to be able to pick up none of the wrinkles whatsoever. I mean, using this card, for instance, I'll try to blow it up. Like, can you tell where the issue is for this card to be a 2?
Well, that is a problem when you're only putting one picture. I love to buy from the sellers on eBay who will take a picture of every corner. They'll angle the card. They take the back and they have multiple photos of different angles. Because sometimes I'll love a card, but then I'll see a flaw on it. And I'll be like, oh, is this on the card? And I go to the next picture and it's not on that picture. So then I know it's a reflection, right? And he's given me so many photos, I get to see exactly what that card looks like. And if there are any sellers out there who are on eBay, and I think it's the same price to put as many pictures, right? I don't think you have to pay more, but it is beneficial because there are cards I have walked away from because there's some flaw and I can't tell if it's in the scanner and if it's a flash or whatever, because the other thing is people that will put cards in top loaders, and the top loader's all effed up and there's scratches all over it. Well, I don't know if that's on the card or the top loader. It very well could be on the top loader, but I ain't taking that chance. I don't know why you would put a picture up like that, especially on some of these modern shiny cards, because it looks like it has major flaws, and it very well could be the top loader, but I don't know that because I've certainly opened modern shiny cards that did have a flaw on them or a scratch.
We could do a whole tutorial on like what you should do. Like I'll put on my listings any scratches are on the case or product of the photo, they are not on the card.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like you just gotta make sure. Sammy!
Hey guys.
Welcome aboard.
You couldn't wait for tomorrow night. You missed me.
Well, I was trying to reach out to you in the chat to ask if you got the Lazeri card.
I was just going to show you. I just got it.
Oh, nice. Good.
Thank you very much.
No problem.
Wait, hold on. We gotta blow that up.
Yeah, show me some diamond stars.
Well, somebody came up to Sammy at a show, and I need to find out who. I was going to make a video and ask who this was because he gave this to Sammy to give to me because I need it for my set. And it was so generous, but I don't know who gave it to him.
So I'll fill in the gap. I always refer to him as Tom from Milford. He watches a bunch of Yow's channels. I think he stays mostly kind of hidden. It doesn't really, I don't think he comments much, very infrequently, but Tom is very giving, loves just sharing cards with people, with Dom, Steven Sports Cards, myself. And I guess he knew, he was watching John enough and he knew that he needed the Lazeri card. He goes, I just have this and, you can give it to John. I was like, okay.
That's such a generous gift. Tom from Milford?
Tom from Milford. That's I've always labeled him that in all of my videos whenever I interact with him.
Okay, well, Tom, if you're watching, thank you very much. But I'll thank you again on a video when I show this baby.
Sammy, we got to ask you, based on our discussion right now with PSA grading, or like if you're looking to buy something, is there anything that strikes a nerve with you, like personally, what you had to deal with that you don't like, whether it's buying online or something, or authentication?
I generally buy at shows in person. I kind of just favor that more most of the time. There have been times where I bought online, but I was I was listening into what you guys were talking about, and I know some folks, it's been a little bit of an issue lately where the appearance of a card, the photographed, doesn't come out the way it does when you get the card in hand, and there's been some disappointment there. So I can't say I've dealt with that myself personally, but because I don't really buy as much online compared to some others, but I know it's been a hot topic recently.
Well, I'll tell you this. I want to say this because, and I don't know, maybe I'm just savvy and I've been doing it for so long, but that really never happens to me. I have more occasions where I'm extra happy with it than I am where I am not happy with. Now, it does happen. It does happen where I'm not happy with a card. It's usually modern cards, though, which I've stopped buying, because with modern cards nowadays, to buy them raw, it's people's rejects. That's what you're buying, because they're trying to make that bank and flip those cards and get those 10s. And if they don't, they crack it, or they don't submit it at all, and they're selling them raw. And I think that's just the world we live in. But I can honestly say that it is very, very infrequently, not that it's never happened, it's very infrequent that I get something that I'm super disappointed in, and way more common that I get something that is better than I was expecting. And that's been my eBay experience. Now, I tend to buy from, a feedback means a lot to me. I avoid lower feedback. And I do, if somebody has, they're at 96.3 or something. I'm sorry, 99.3 or whatever. I'll go in there and I'll see. And oftentimes you avoid people, but then when you go look, it's like one guy complained twice, and that's the only complaints they have. And the guy's like, I offered him a refund, something like that. So I'm very particular about that. Plus, I tend to know what I'm looking for, what I'm looking at. and all those little tricks of the trade that you look at and you shy away from. So I'm extra careful too.
Well, for me, for instance, I gotta say I have to. Although I like buying at a show, if I'm trying to put something together, a collection, a set, or something, sometimes they don't come up at shows. You can't find them, so you have to resort to eBay to when finally you put in your watch list and it comes up. Now you start saying, "Oh my God, finally it came up! I get a chance to finally buy this one." So unfortunately, there are times you can't just go to shows and look for the stuff you're looking for.
I have to tell you, I like to buy online better these days because I don't have the eyesight that I used to. And when I'm at a show, even with glasses, sometimes I don't see everything on it till I get it home and I'm under the light. Whereas with photos and scans and stuff, I could see very clearly the card. I'm not tricked by something when I get home. And there have been occasions where, there was something I didn't see, no big deal, but I'm like, man, I can't even trust my eyes at a show anymore.
Well, it was like I remember when we were walking at the East Coast National White Plains, we saw that 57 was the 57 cons.
Clemente.
And at first, you were looking at it and you thought like, wow, this is really great. And then it took my set of eyes to look at it and like, hold on a second, let's.
My eyes lit up and it was a good price. I was willing to pay and it looked good at first glance, but then when we started to delve into it, where I don't know, it's just harder to see in person because either way, because when you're shopping online, you could blow that sucker up. You could look at every little nook and cranny, and when you're at a show, there might be other people looking, and you find, like for me, I tend to pull the trigger too quickly when I see something I really want. Right. And maybe don't give it as good of a look as I should sometimes.
Well, I think a good idea is to take, it's very obvious, but just take your phone and your phone light, grab the card and put it right on it, like right on it. I mean, I had a guy at a show recently. He had a 1975 Reggie Jackson and a PSA 9 PD, print defect. And he's a young guy. He's like, I don't know why it's a PD. Nobody knows why. So let me see it. Put it on there. Snow. It just had a lot of snow, but it was like kind of deep snow, like really, like you wouldn't, like if you're looking at it, like from here, you wouldn't see it, but you really got to look at it. And I mean, I know a lot of people bring, lights, monocles, whatever. We at our age, John, we need more than our readers.
Yeah, I look for those surface bubbles too. Those little, how Topps was notorious for having those little tiny bubbles. If I see PD or something, I assume there's a mark on it or one of those little bubbles, maybe.
I'm at fault that when I'm at a show and I see something I haven't seen before, finally, oh my God, I've been looking for this card forever. And my emotions start to get the better of me to where it's like, I can't let this card go.
Yeah.
It's taking me so long and the price is just right. Let me see if I can hit them harder. And then when I get home, I'm like, oh, I didn't notice this. I didn't know.
Right.
Like my emotions got the best of me. Does that happen to you guys?
Sure.
Yeah, that's what I was that was my point a minute ago. That's definitely. And sometimes with cutout cards, like hand cut cards, if you're not familiar with the set, you can think it looks great and buy it and not even realize that it's cut way smaller than it should be. Like you didn't know it had a border, or sometimes that can happen too because you're not familiar with the card set.
Yeah, I had a guy with a kid sold me this Ichiro rookie. It was a PSA 10, and I was like so excited to get it because I got it for a good deal. I got home, the whole bottom of the slab was cracked. It was. I mean, I had to get it reholdered, and of course, it was $12, and it took 3 months to get it back.
Right.
But, I mean, the whole bottom was cracked. If I just had looked around the edges of the card, but I was just looking at the card. I saw the 10, and I was like, okay, let's make a deal.
I'll tell you, if it's not like a $5,000 or $10,000 card, I just crack it out of there. I can't stand having a cracked case, and I refuse to send it in usually.
Legends never die.
What are your your things you just can't, like they're deal breakers, like cracked slabs or centering, or like the price is just too much, but even if it's a rare card? Like, what's your ultimate deal breakers? Like, I'll start with Mike since he just got back on.
Ultimate deal breakers, too expensive, and the dealer not willing to buy. If a dealer's set in their price and won't even come down $5 or what, I just walk away. We've all realized that by and large, most of these cards are not rare. Unless you ask John, the president, he would say everything's rare. But the rest of us buy normal cards that aren't rare, and I don't mind walking away at all because I've been very patient over my collecting life. Which what else would I deal breakers? I don't mind, and I like it's got to be a clear. I'm a registration guy. It's got to be a clean picture, no creases over faces or snow, and it can be off center a little bit. It came out of the pack that way. It's not like somebody made it off center. It was just it was just printed that way. And so to me, registration is probably a deal. Like if there's a crease over the face, I won't even buy the card. I won't even look at the card.
My answer, I'll go next because my answer is identical to Mike's. That's exactly how I would answer it. Same deal.
That's why he chose me for his cabinet. See, he knew that I would be a loyal. He knows I'm a loyal guy to his way of collecting. His hobby agenda is my hobby agenda. That's how it is.
Plus, you're plugged into all the big companies. Who better?
Yeah.
Mike's been groomed just right for John.
Absolutely.
Sammy, how about you? What's your deal breakers?
I think it all depends on the card. So I'll just give you an example. So I'm building the T206 portrait set of all the New York Giants right now. So for the more of the common guys, I would want to have good centering on them. I don't really care about the corners being sharp because I know that it's over 100-year-old card, so I'm not picky on that. But centering for me would be important. For guys like the two McGraws and the Marquard, I have a little more flexibility on that. But I use that as an example. But I think it all ultimately depends on the card and what it is, what's in front of me.
Okay, George, deal breakers.
Along the lines of what Sammy said and Mike too, like we all want well-centered cards, not all, but typically you want a well-centered card with eye appeal. If the corners are a little rounded and it's older or whatever, I get it, 41 play ball, whatever. But like Sammy said, you got to accept the population that's out there. You know what I mean? If you're trying to find a rare card, you may have to accept an off-center card.
That's right.
But like Mike said, I'm not a big fan of creases through the face. If it's a rare card, I would accept that as long as it doesn't break the color. Maybe, you know what I mean? But yeah, the image is important. The centering is important. But as we go down, like Mike said, a lot of these cards are not rare. I just picked this Koufax up at a show. It's a 7. The centering is off, but it's really, really bright. Somebody will love this card because the registration's great.
I just had my birthday, George. If you need a place for that card, I don't know.
Well, I already sent you a Roy Hobbs jersey last year.
That's
happy birthday.
True.
I would say for me, if I see something in a case that just has my attention, whether it's rare or the centering or it's something I've been looking for and finally found it at someone's case, I already like what you got. So now it's a question of, can we strike a deal and how hard up are you on this price? Where did you get this price from? Because I look up VCPs and I'll see where something should be at. And if he's really high and I show him, hey, look, this is what they've been going for. Is there any room? So there's times that they're a little stiff or rigid with their prices, but then I'll try to soften them up with, well, how about if I buy a few things? Are you going to show me love then? Well, if you buy a few things, then maybe we could talk. But even then, I might put a little stack together and they're barely showing me much love. And it's just like at that point, it's like, you know what? I'd rather someone else get my money than you. And I'll walk away. And it's a shame. I
think that's what Mike and I said too. I mean, it's got to be the right money. And then when it comes to like condition and having a crease through the face or whatever, I'm the exact same way. However, a lot of it would depend on the card too, because I'd take a T206 Honus Wagner if the top was cut off, as long as I could see his face and the rest of the card.
Yeah, but to your point, John, like for me, I'm getting close to where I'm going to start building up funds for my 52 Mantle purchase. And that is going to be like, I'm not going to settle for, like I'm going for like a 3. So not a cheap card. And I'm going to find the best. I'm going to take my time and find the right 3 that I want to get. And I don't want a 1 that's all pick all your problems that a 1 can have. Right. I will say with rounded corners, Sammy was talking about that earlier, is I can't stand if the corners aren't evenly rounded. I want them to be evenly rounded. That's fine.
I'm the same way.
Like if you have
like if it's
sharp
just one
corner,
rounded,
sharp
it drives
corner,
me
and
insane.
then goofy, it's like, wait a second, it doesn't fit my eye for whatever reason. And so I don't mind rounded corners.
Isn't it kind of it's almost like a telltale sign the card might be fake if they're not uniformly rounded. Not that they always have to be, but typically the cards that are well loved, like the Mantles, the Mazes, they're like kind of uniformly fucked up.
Well, if they're too uniformly rounded, that's a bad sign they could be a fake.
Mike, one thing about your PSA registry guys or crew that I find as a dealer that is odd to me is if they love the card, they think it's a stupendous example, but it's in an SGC holder, and they punt on the card. Can you answer that to me, Mike? How you just don't buy the card and cross it over if you're in love with the card itself?
I could go grab a stack of SGC slabs that I've softened a little bit on that, and it's mainly because I've just found really good deals for cards that I want in SGC holders. Hold on, I got a stack of them. I'll show you.
To answer your question, James, it's because they're collecting the holder. They don't love that card, or they'd buy it.
Well, and
they'd only love it if it was in a different holder.
Along these lines,
I'm sorry.
These are all SGC slabs, believe it or not. How about a Jack Glasscock old judge?
He should be in the hall.
He should.
I think I have that card.
Well, if you didn't, Mr. President, I could send it to you. Because I serve at the pleasure. Tris Speaker, strip.
I think I have that one too.
Do you anticipate crossing them over at some point?
No.
That's because you're not doing a showcase showdown.
Wait a second. You're not going to cross those over? I thought you were a PSA guy.
I am, but how about here's my Gil Hodges rookie in a SGC slab.
Is there a reason why you don't want to cross them over, or you just
lazy?
Okay.
Is probably the most accurate answer.
Fair enough.
There's my Bowman Minoso rookie in a SGC holder.
Nice. That card looks so wonderful in an SGC holder, in my opinion.
Look at that one. Look how centered that is.
That's a great card.
And what's that? Only a 4? Like,
That's
sure. All day. Another Minoso. But like
I hate cards that are like right out of the pack from 1950. Just doesn't seem right that they should be that way. They look fake.
Post Mantle, which is hilarious because it says evidence of trimming. Yeah, no shit. It's a cut out of a card. I mean,
yeah, that's so ridiculous.
Don't get John started on that topic.
Don't even get me started on that.
Yeah,
that's obvious. I got here's a Jim Bunning in a 7.5.
Hostess cutout card. Evidence that it was trimmed. How the hell do you trim a cutout card?
Roger rookie. So, yeah, I got, I don't know, multiple T206, Cy Young, Mathewson, all in SGC holders. I've got my Gowdy Ruth is in an SGC holder. My DeLong Gehrig is in an SGC holder. None of which will be crossed. I don't see any reason to. I don't want to put the card through the stress. The card has emotions, and so it's already been prodded and inspected, and I don't need to put that card through that again. I want it to like me.
For me, like everybody can make a mistake, and for a big card, I'm petrified to send it for grading. Somebody could, damage it or drop a booger on it or whatever, and I don't want it out of my hands. I don't know who's grading it, so they don't tell us. I don't know what it's going through.
I am getting a card. I don't want to. I'm getting a card that's coming in an SGC. It's the one coming from eBay that I will cross over for sure, because I'm thinking about grading the whole set. And so, which I'm really having a hard time with, truthfully justifying. It's the 01 Greats of the Game autograph set. And George loves that. I know George loves that set. I just having a hard time justifying. I added up the money. I'm like, why would I do this? It's so stupid. But I still may do it. I do stupid things all the time. But
if it makes you happy, what difference does it make?
It doesn't.
Sammy, I was gonna ask you, do you encounter some weird stuff when you're selling that just you can't understand it?
You mean like just people bringing stuff up to the table, you mean, or
anything that you see just
weird, like behaviors?
Yeah.
That could get me in trouble. So
nothing to get you in trouble.
Well, I just don't know if all right. So some strange behaviors I've noticed is like you'll set up your display case in a certain way, and somebody will pass by and not like the way it looks, and so they'll start. Maybe it's because like they're OCD or something like that. They'll start like going in and be like, "Oh, let me fix that for you."
Really?
So I just, I kind of just am like, okay, well,
I've never seen that one.
That's hilarious.
Me neither.
So there's that. It's most of the time it's pretty
They're
civil.
probably stealing a card when they do that. That's an old magician's trick.
It's like pulling the watch off without you noticing,
right?
That sort of thing.
You put the pressure. Yeah.
There won't be an empty spot if they're fixing it and fanning it out correctly.
That's right. That's right.
James, I'm going to get running. Somebody else can come in, but Mr. President, thank you.
Hey, Mike, thanks so much for jumping on.
You.
Thank you
for jumping on.
There, Mike.
You elevated the misfits.
Well, I'm just friends with all the misfits. That's the only thing I can say is that I consider them all my good friends. So that's at least I'm connected that way. So we have the inner circle. Y'all have the misfits. Everybody has their own little things, and I love that actually, because it's not mutually exclusive. They're all cool. I love all you guys, so it's great. All right, y'all have a good one.
Okay, you too.
Love you too, brother.
Bye, guys.
What I love about what Mike just said was you became president not by your inner circle, but because so many people that are loyal to you, not like us or our inner circles, even viewers, they voted for you. And then you got people like Jeff Wilson that has like 10 times the viewers that you have or subscribers.
Yeah, but I don't think Sports Card Radio viewers were going to be voting for him anyway. And I think I appreciate that, James. But I think a lot of it was a vote against the COVID boom people. I think that's what it was. I think the collectors came out of the woodwork to vote for a collector. I think that's probably what it is more than anything, which is great. It sends a nice message.
Yeah.
Well, I want to say something too. I think it has a lot to do, John, with the fact you make a lot of videos, and you're not making videos to make yourself look good. You're making videos to teach people about different parts of the hobby. Now, certainly most of it's vintage, but it's not just vintage from like 1970s, or it's like vintage all the way back. So, I mean, the intent, and I know you very well, the intent, and I think what appeals to people is you're trying to teach them something, and not from a perspective of, I know more than you, listen to me. It's like, hey, I'm excited about this. I want to share this. And I think that excitement is infectious. So,
well, I appreciate that, because that's what I try to do. I try to make it at least somewhat entertaining so people will pay attention. but I do love to share any kind of knowledge that I may have garnered. And sometimes I just garnered that knowledge, 10 minutes before I made the video. But, the other night, Lou was saying something. I was watching a live, I forget which one, but Lou was on there. And he was saying how we all have truly influenced the hobby. And I was going to make a video on it because it really sparked something in me that he's so right. When back in, before I started on YouTube, I was buying cards that nobody seemed to want, whether it was a Satchel Paige 47 exhibit card or a Sanella Babe Ruth card you could get for $150, and Red Hearts and 1950 Drakes. When I first showed those, nobody seemed to know what they were. And because of YouTube, all these cards have blown up. And we all created a competition for ourselves because I used to be able to buy these for next to nothing because nobody was shopping for them.
Oh, you could buy those exhibit cards for nothing. You could buy those exhibit cards for nothing.
For nothing.
I bought a raw Jackie Robinson for $35 one time.
Yeah. So it hit me that we have influenced the community, all of us, and I don't mean us, I mean everybody that is on YouTube, everybody that makes videos, because I see something that somebody shows, I didn't know it existed, I want to go buy it. And there is so much of that going on. So now, because I show these rare cards and Dave Blue Jacket 66 and Value Vintage, and we're showing cards that people, probably most people never saw before or knew existed. And so there's that has diminished in a great way, where now collectors are better educated than they ever were before. And that is one thing that I am proud of being a part of and contributing, even if just a little bit to that.
Well, and I know that James, like as dealers, Sammy included and James, they all, like, we have to educate people all the time on different cards, right, guys?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I mean, I'm always texting Sammy or Orlando or Dan from Dan's Vintage or Double D or Greg Midlife, Adam Splendid Sports, the Misfits, the whole national crew that we stayed with. I'm always sending you, hey, you ever hear of this guy? What's his claim to fame? This card set? And Rick, Vintage Oddball Cards, he's always sending us stuff. Hey, John, you see this? You ever see one of these before? And he's taught me so much. And, we teach each other. And it's awesome because I didn't have this in the old days when I collected in obscurity, unless I happened to read it in a magazine or, I go through that standard catalog and just educate myself on certain sets. And I'd be so excited to go get these sets that I never saw before or at a show. But now, man, we created all kind of competition for ourselves because I got to pay way more for these cards now.
I actually wanted to ask John if you have any of these posters. I picked this up because Dave, Legends of the Dugout, suggested that I pick one of these Tasco posters up from 1969.
No, I don't have any of those.
Oh, okay. There's a bunch. There's like a whole list of these players. It's a simple poster, but there's it's kind of a caricature of the play of them. So,
do you have any more of those, Sammy?
I got it off of eBay because Dave suggested, he's like, hey, there's a Maze poster, and I got it for I don't know, $25-$30, and they have Johnny Bench is on there. It's kind of cool being a second year. I don't know if Clemente, I imagine he must be on there, but
I don't know why this is coming to me, but when I was, John's older than me, and James and I are the same age, but when I was a kid going to school, you'd go to your teacher's room for the first time, third grade, second grade. I'm talking this 78, 77. Those kind of look like posters that were on the wall sometimes in some of my teachers' rooms. You know what I mean? Of all, John, are you feeling what I'm saying? I don't know.
Well, I never saw them hanging in school or anything like that, but I understand. I can envision it. They would have things really like that.
Caricature.
Yeah, I remember a teacher of mine had a Dave Justy baseball card in his drawer, and we saw it, and then the rumors got around that he was Dave Justy's son because he had his baseball card.
Guys,
and Nate just chimed in there, and like you were saying, John, and boy, like all these people we could share this stuff with, and for me, Nate was a big influence way back, and it was like I watched this video, and he said, I was, why did I start my channel? And he was talking about how he was trying to share his cards with his wife and his family and his friends at that time, not his homeboys from like when he was growing up, and he had nobody, very few people to share them with. And that story has always stuck with me. This is back like 2000, maybe 15 or something, when I watched him for the first time.
Man, that's amazing that you just said that, because I swear it wasn't maybe 2 hours ago that I was by myself and thinking, and it just hit me that is why YouTube is blowing up. That is why we have all these new channels. That is why it's such a great time to collect, because whether you're on Facebook or Instagram or YouTube, it's like we never had anybody to show what we have or to appreciate it. If we did show it to them and they wanted to look at it, they wouldn't know what they were looking at. And now what happens? As soon as somebody gets a card, they're posting it on Facebook, they're posting it on Instagram, they're texting it to their buddies, and they're making a video about it. Because when we get something, we're so excited to get it, all of us, and we can't wait to share it with somebody, and to share it with somebody who will appreciate it. And I truly believe that's why, social media has changed the collecting world.
Yeah.
And this is,
go ahead, George. Sorry.
This is why, the National is just obscenely large. And I remember when we were all in Cleveland, and I just looked at, God, I don't know who it was, but I said, oh my God, they don't have a big enough facility in the United States. It's indoor for this crew. Everybody wants a table. Everybody wants to be there. It's massive. And there's not like, you could have multiple football stadiums, and it wouldn't be enough for the amount of people that want to be there. And now it's just amazing. We were all kind of on these little islands, like Dylan, literally. We were all on these islands of collecting, and then we've all kind of, connected.
George, you just came up with a brilliant idea, and you don't even know it.
Have the National in Hawaii.
We should have the National at a dome. There's plenty of pissers. You won't have to worry about finding bathrooms. There's plenty of seating.
No problems with the weather.
You get tired. Have it in a stadium.
Let's have it in tropic.
That's brilliant. You got the food. You got all the food stands.
Fanatics will probably do this. They'll do the Superdome sports card show.
It's brilliant. I might stay away from Tampa this year because in case it rains. But if you get a dome,
Dylan has stated earlier that the more he knows, the less money he has. It's so true, because
it's so true.
All these channels teaching me about new sets, or the way they collect, or the way they look at cards, where I didn't used to look at it like that. And now it introduces me to a new rabbit hole, or like inserts that are rare, and I had no idea they were rare. Like Nate, he'll pick up 1 of 50, and it took him like 3 years to locate Barry Bonds insert card, and he's like so over the moon he found that card. That keeps me broke, because now I'm like, I wonder who else is in that insert set. Let me dive into that. And next thing you know, I put it on my watch list, and I'm like $200 in the hole because I found one. And it's just YouTube. I blame them for keeping me broke.
I can't tell you how many times I overlooked a card or didn't care that much for it. And someone will make a video that makes the card look so great. And then I gain a totally new appreciation, and all of a sudden I want one, and I never wanted one before. It's just the only thing that social media, the only bad thing that came out of social media is I cannot look at an off-center card now without thinking of Double D, and that he wouldn't approve of this card that I'm buying. I'm just messing with you, Double D.
Sammy, what's a new rabbit hole for you, man?
It's hard to say, because this year has been really good to me in terms of pickups. And I jokingly say this, but Rick Vintage Oddball Cards got the one card that I was thinking about getting, but it got too expensive for me. It was the American die cut Mathewson, and I'm glad he got it though. It's really comforting to know in a way that it went to someone within the community within the YouTube community, so that's cool. But right now, I mean, something just has to speak to me when I go to a show. If I see something that's different, like this was outside my peripheral of players, but I got the Tiant 67 Venny.
Oh,
Great card.
Yeah,
too.
Love that card.
Yeah, so I mean, when I was looking at my buddy Brian Fish's table, this is the first card I picked up, and then I picked up the Maze behind me, the Venny, and
I thought
just
that was a Venny.
Yeah, I thought, I just like the way those cards stood out compared to the other ones. I just thought this card looked really good. And it's funny because when I was graduating high school, I was preparing to find a baseball team to play in college. And Savannah College of Art and Design, I was like a film student. And Savannah College of Art and Design amazingly has a baseball team. And Louis Tiant was the head coach at the time.
No way.
Yeah. So that was a thought, but
that's so cool.
It would have been a walk-on, which would have been cool because I mean, I would have had Tiant helping me with pitching tips. Which
I mean, how awesome would that be to have a major leaguer like that, and especially a great one like him?
Yeah, pretty cool.
That's a great copy you have too. Those 67s are so tough, and yeah, let's look at the Maze. I saw that. And I said that looks like a Venny. I saw it was underneath another Venny Retirado.
Fantastic.
Oh yeah.
So there, from what I understand about this, is that there's like with SGC, there's about 21 or 22 of these graded. The back, unfortunately, is pretty miserable, but but that's expected. I mean,
that's next to unavoidable on most of them.
Yeah, but the front is just everything about it. It's a really stunning card, and I'm happy to have it.
Honestly. It's a lot more rare than a lot of the other Vennies. The 67 set is just a lot more difficult than 64. It's just tougher. And here's a little tip for you card alterers out there. I know you love Kurt, John, so I'll throw this out there. But a lot of people say with the Venny backs, like, why didn't you take the glue off the back? Because this idea that you can take stuff off cards. But the Venny glue apparently is not, from my understanding, water-based glue. It was solvent-based glue, and you can't get it off. If I'm wrong, somebody can call me out. Not that I'm into card altering. I'm just saying, though, that that Venny glue.
I've never tried it, but I've heard that as well. I've heard that as well because they used a different glue there.
Yeah, it's not water-based. It won't just soak right off. Anyway, just a comment.
What I love about collecting the Vennies is it takes me back to when I was a kid, and I didn't care about the condition, and I didn't care if there was a little blemish on the back, and if it had a rounded corner or a little crease or whatever. That's just how you find them routinely. And sure, you can find some in a little bit higher grade. I mean, if you find a 4 or 5, that's really high grade, and you're also going to pay way up for it. But that's just a fun way to collect. To find a really good looking 1.5 or 2 that chase is fun.
I'll tell you one thing. Like also YouTube, when I see the way people collect, they forced me to find something of a collection that spoke to me. Like I did the Triple Crowns for like a couple years, and then recently I was like, well, stolen base guys are starting to get like 75 stolen bases and 70, whatever. So I started looking back at stolen base heroes of yesteryear. And then I said, you know what? Let me try to put together some of the most like stolen bases throughout history. And then I found this card. I'll show you real quick. Arlie Latham, which never had looked for his cards before. And this man stole like 126 bases one year and 106 another year. But it turns out this is an era variation, which is like super rare. The last one sold was like in 2003 or something.
Is that
And
right?
yeah, so I don't know if you can see it.
2003?
It's like a long time ago. I looked at the right
Wow.
sale. But it has a W.A. Latham. That's the era. The other one just has A. Latham. So when you have the W in front, that variation is supposed to be like very rare.
James, you have 12 people on eBay right now looking at the back of that, looking at those cards.
Like to show what Sammy's looking at and being opportunistic. If I'm not like trying to devise a new collection, something that might speak to me or I'll have fun with, I would never even have looked twice at this card. And then to find that it's a rare version just really stoked my fires even more. And that's what YouTube did to me. It keeps me always inventing new ways to collect.
Well, it's so exciting to learn things like that. And now look at your face and your listen to your voice talking about that card. Like that's what it's all about right there.
Well, I could use the rare terminology that the president uses. This is very rare. Not many known to exist.
Well, the president overuses it.
If you like stolen bases, you should look at getting a Germany Schaefer card. He's the only guy that stole from second back to first.
Nice.
In order to get, I think it was Davy Jones. He was on third, and Germany Schaefer was getting relentless. He wanted a run scored, but he wanted to do it on an attempt at stealing a base, and so he kept going. He went from second. He stole first to second, then he went back to first. And the catcher didn't throw because he knew Davy Jones is on third. He didn't want him stealing home. So Schaefer was getting frustrated, so he stole second again. Catcher got fed up and threw down, and they were both safe.
Oh, my God. What's his name? I'm going to look him up.
Germany Schaefer.
Germany Schaefer. I got to look.
Dude, Sammy, have you read a book? It's called Baseball Anecdotes, and it has a lot to do with pre-war baseball. It's a pretty easy read. It's like 200-something pages, but I don't know if you ever heard of the book.
No. I was reading this from the Glory of Their Times.
Gotcha. This one talks about, it's like, who was it? King Kelly was notorious for doing all these things to gamesmanship. And I'm trying to remember who the third baseman was, but he was tagging up King Kelly, and he would unloosen his belt because this third baseman was known for, when the ball was pop-up, he was known for going to the runner and grabbing his belt. And so then the left fielder would catch the ball, throw it in, and the third baseman would hold onto their belt and then let them go, and they'd fall down, right? And they get thrown out or get in a pickle. And so King Kelly was so crafty. He knew this dude would do this all the time. So he was on third, and he bent over to wipe his pants, and he unloosened his belt. And then he went to tag up. The ball's hit the left field, and you know what happens. He goes to grab King Kelly's belt. King Kelly takes off, and the third baseman is left there standing with a belt. So these are the kind of stories that are in this book, Baseball Anecdotes. If you can find it on eBay, it's a wonderful.
Sounds fun. Hey, James, I have one for you. If you're into stolen base guys, there's only one guy that stole home for a walk-off. Stole home for a walk-off more than once. Do you know who that is?
No.
Wally Moses.
Wally Moses. I'm going to look him up.
They gave Rod Carew tied Ty Cobb for the record of most stolen bases of home in a season.
Yeah, he
stole
home a lot.
They took one away from Carew or gave one to Cobb. So Carew no longer has the record.
Oh, is that right?
I think it's 8 times. It used to be 7. If you look at, I think it's Carew's 69 All-Star card. I think it says stole home 7 times in a season.
Look at Scott with the Lou Gehrig stole home 15 times.
Yeah, Lou Gehrig, surprisingly, because it's not a guy you think of. It's insane how many times he stole home. Max Carey, I think, stole home the second most times. And I'm drawing a blank on the guy that did it the most times. Oh, man. Who does anybody know?
If only we had something we could look it up on.
I knew a couple months ago. Yeah, did they make a device you can look this stuff up?
I don't know. It's probably a comm link or something like that.
I mean, somebody has to have a satellite video feed or something.
I just love the Yogi Berra documentary where they would tease him, where Jackie Robinson was safe, and he's like, he was out, and they always tweak him with
Yeah.
that.
I'll tell you what, I've watched that so many times. To me, he was out. I'm sorry, he was.
It was so
I think
close.
Yogi had a right to be mad. That ball was there so well before him. Now maybe Yogi didn't tag him, but Yogi sure was fired up.
Yeah, Nate says it was a lot more common to steal home prior to World War II.
Yes.
Well, it was a lot more generating runs and trying to do things like push people over and bunt.
Right.
Yeah, it was a lot different game. Small ball, I think, was the thing.
Yeah, well, and part of that was the dead ball, and the other part was they played in bigger ballparks. And people want to diminish Babe Ruth's home runs, for this reason or that reason. But when you consider that he played in bigger ballparks than these guys, I mean, it's like substantial the fences back then.
Right.
I mean,
It was easier to hit triples and easier to hit doubles, but it was way harder to hit home runs.
Are you talking about I'm sorry, I missed that part of it. Are you talking about which period of time?
Well, you talk about his Babe Ruth's first 6 years, he played with the dead ball.
Yeah.
Where guys would hit 12 home runs and lead the league.
Right.
Sometimes not even that many. And
But
then
there would be more triples.
in Yankee Stadium and everything, they those fences were back farther than the guys today.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's this is also from the Glory of the Times. I'm kind of on the middle, like towards the end of the chapter on Sam Crawford, and so he talks a lot about that in the book. That the comparing, I guess at the time he was interviewed, I guess that must have been in the I don't know, I can't remember exactly.
Glory of their Times was like 1961, I believe.
Yeah, so roughly, I guess maybe in the late 50s or something. But Crawford was interviewed, and he was comparing, the dead ball era versus that era, and how the home run, how the fences were definitely a lot. I mean, now they had fences, and you can hit home runs a lot easier. Whereas, in his era, I mean, Crawford was a big home run hitter at that time, so he was mashing the ball all over the place and led the league a couple of times. But yeah, there were definitely more triples. I think still to this day, unless I'm mistaken, the career leader in triples is from the dead ball era. I can't remember the name. But,
well, the single season is Owen Chief Wilson, and the all-time leader in triples, isn't it Sam Crawford?
No,
Yes.
is it Sam Crawford? Maybe it is Sam Crawford.
Trish Speaker's the all-time leader in doubles, and then Earl Webb is the single season leader in doubles.
Right.
Oh, it is Sam Crawford. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah. And Sam Crawford.
I don't know why you doubt me, Sammy.
No, I don't. You know what it was? That I was reading Crawford's
I'm just
chapter.
messing around.
No, I know. But I must have thought he mentioned somebody else, but I guess he was referring to himself.
Yeah, but they said that he would often hit the ball into the crowd where it was roped off. And they estimated the crowd was 470 feet back. So if he's hitting it to them, I mean, he could have hit home runs galore if there was a fence. Forget about it.
Along these lines, during the Rickwood game this summer, they have redone the stadium. I mean, just the basic stuff from the seats or whatever to everything else. But they were showing the outfield home run fence from a drone, and the major league fence that they had put up, the real Rickwood fence was like 35 feet all the way around deeper. It was just like, you got to really put a charge in a ball to get it over that fence. And, they're talking about Josh Gibson hit it out of there countless times.
Yeah.
But anyway.
Even the Polo Grounds, how dead center, Willie Mays caught the ball backhanded back there. But that field was like almost 480 or 490 dead center. It was like a runway back there.
490.
Yeah. I was researching Joe DiMaggio at one time, and I was reading up on how much farther, like he was at such a disadvantage at Yankee Stadium because of how deep center field was. and they were saying, it was so much farther than the modern stadiums, and that's why if you look up his stats, he hit way more home runs on the road than he did at home, because Yankee Stadium favored left-handed batters. But when they were doing the comparison between where the fence was back then and where it is today, oh my God, it's a substantial difference.
Yeah.
This isn't 15 feet. This is like 30, 35 feet.
Yeah.
Right, and there were monuments back then too, where he was scared to shag deep fly balls because he thought he was going to get crippled by just running into a monument.
Well, they didn't have padding on the wall back then. It was a wall.
Yeah. No, it was a different time. It's hard to compare eras. Hitting 35 home runs was a huge achievement back then. And then in the dead ball era, they didn't swap out the balls. It was just the same ball used inning after inning after inning.
And they were allowed to spit tobacco juice and dirt and whatever else.
Right.
That rule was changed when Carl Mays, what was the guy's name that got beamed?
Oh,
yes, somebody got killed.
Carl Mays was the pitcher, right? Or was he the? Man, I'm drawing a blank. Anyway, when he died, they changed that rule because he just couldn't. He never saw the ball coming.
Yeah.
In fact, there's an old story about it's my dad told it to me, but I know other people have heard it too. But my dad said when he was watching a ball game, it was back in like the 60s. He said that it might have been the 50s, actually, 50s or 60s. But there was a guy, an old time player on there who played in a game with like Walter Johnson back in the day. And he said that it was a cloudy day. And he said that Walter Johnson wound up and threw, but didn't release the ball. And the catcher went like this in his mitt. And the umpire called it a strike. And the batter was arguing that it was outside. Like Walter threw so fast, and the balls were so dark and everything. On a cloudy day, he didn't even know he didn't throw the ball, according to this guy.
This is like a story from Baseball Anecdotes, and I'm not sure if it was King Kelly again. I think it was. There was a ball. The sun was going down. They were going to call the game, but they were in the last inning, and it was a one-run game. The team that was in the field, the home team, had the lead, and the ball went flying out to left field. The outfielder jumped up to catch it, caught it. Okay, so it's running in. Everybody leaves. They go to the third baseman. He says, "Where's the ball?" And he's like, "I don't know. It was 30 feet over my head." So this is the kind of stuff that goes on, And it was dark by that time. Everybody had cleared out, That's just your typical, like dead ball era stuff.
Yeah.
Walter Johnson apparently had a good relationship with Sam Crawford, and because Ty Cobb kind of pissed everybody off in the league, Walter Johnson everybody loved Walter Johnson. He was such a nice guy, and everyone thought the world of him. But Walter Johnson also knew, he if you wronged him or treated him poorly, he's not going to be nice to you. So Crawford's mentioned that there were games where it was a blowout either on either side, and Johnson would be pitching, and Crawford would come up to the plate, and the catcher would say, "Hey, listen, he's going to throw it easy, so you can get a nice base hit." And so Crawford would launch one and kind of mysteriously kind of tip his cap to Johnson, thanking him. And then whenever Cobb went up, he was throwing lights out fastballs. Cobb would just get pissed off. He was like, "What the hell?"
Well, I think Ty Cobb gave him his nickname, didn't he?
I don't know. Did he?
I'm pretty sure Ty Cobb is the one that started calling him the Big Train. They named him the Big Train because at the time, a train was the fastest thing on earth.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So those long arms, man. Those long arms.
Yeah, I know Ty Cobb, and researching his career, he was very jealous that Sam Crawford was able to hit Walter Johnson, and Ty Cobb couldn't sniff a hit off of him. And he thought he was twice the batter that Sam Crawford was. He couldn't understand how he would go 2 for 4 in a game, and Ty Cobb's 0 for 4. And
I don't think I don't think there's ever been a more competitive baseball player than Ty Cobb.
Pete Rose, maybe. Pete
He
Rose.
was very competitive, and there's that radio interview. I'm sure you heard it. It's like his one and only that you can listen to, and he was very into conditioning. He used to run with weighted shoes, and he would talk about going hunting in the off season, keep his legs strong. He was fanatical about keeping his legs strong, and he had a specific diet. He may have been the first athlete that was into nutrition in that way. It's pretty interesting to listen to, and he was a thinker. Like he would set a guy up. He would say, like, he'd set him up. Like he talks about when he set Hal Chase up, he would do something for like 5 games, and then when he needed a play, he knew his tendency and he did it differently. And he was, he would think about how he would slide into the base and which side he would go to based on tendencies or where the ball was going, like all kind of real cerebral,
Yeah.
Yeah,
he thought about the game a lot.
Right. Hank Aaron did that also. He would set a pitcher up for when the game really mattered. He would make the pitcher think he could get something by him, but he would just overswing at it on purpose because he knew he could see it well. And when it mattered, he clocked that home run because he set him up.
Yeah.
There's when Crawford was talking about like the greatest players or the greatest player, you could tell when he was talking about, he kept saying, listen, Cobb is a great player. He is a great player. He does a lot of great things, and he's one of the smartest players. But the greatest player that I've ever seen is Honus Wagner.
Honus Wagner, yeah.
And everybody from all the different players that were interviewed in that book have said the same thing so far. Honus Wagner is the greatest player that they've ever seen, or was the greatest player that they've ever seen.
Yeah, and they said that he was better at, like, Ty Cobb was a very individualistic player, and they say that Honus Wagner was very much a team player, team first.
Well, I mean, when you're a player who has a leadership quality attitude and wants to rally the team together, you're going to be more popular, and your skills will speak for itself. You don't have to be boisterous, and I'm not a Cobb hater. It might sound like I am, but because Cobb obviously was phenomenal in his own right, but the polar opposite.
Yeah, phenomenal player, and who's to say who was better? Cobb certainly ended up with the better numbers, the higher batting average and everything. But Honus Wagner was just good at everything too.
Yeah,
Cobb never won a World Series, did he?
Cobb did, I believe.
Yeah,
I
think he won. Yeah, I think he did.
I know he lost in the 20s, like with Harry Howman. I think they won one, didn't they?
Ty Cobb, no, you know what? I'm looking at it. He never won the World Series.
He didn't.
Oh,
I thought he won
one.
I know they went a bunch.
Maybe they went to one.
I think
that's the thing, right? In Ken Burns' documentary talking about the 1909 World Series and Cobb versus Wagner and the young upstart Cobb and the old Flying Dutchman, and how Wagner just worked him over in the series and slapped him in the face when he tried to steal second and intimidated him. And it's just like, and
I heard that story. Yeah, he came spikes up and he put that glove right in his face.
I mean, I'm just trying to give some love to your Pirates, John. Come on.
No. In 1909, they had a rookie pitcher named Babe Adams, and Ty Cobb went 1-11 against him in that series. 1-11, and he was a rookie.
I saw a documentary recently where I was just trying to compare offensive players all time, just for fun. Just I like looking at these. And someone came up with where they just took out their younger years where they were learning and the years where they were declining, and he just rated their prime years. And Wagner ended up 1, and Bonds was 2 in their prime years, and then Babe Ruth was 3. So That was something where I was like, wow. Honus Wagner got #1. That's impressive. And he used every criteria you could think of, even like runs created on his own and everything, like with his stealing, because he was a Flying Dutchman. So he used everything to put a score on the board. It was Honus Wagner was #1.
Yeah, and I mean, great. How many? What do you have? 8 batting titles?
Yeah, he had a lot.
I think he had 8.
I think you're right.
Well, I guess it's. I guess Cobb has a feather in his cap in terms of when they both went into the Hall of Fame. Ty Cobb had a higher percentage compared to Wagner. Cobb had
let me tell you something.
Okay.
Those first guys that went into the Hall of Fame,
yeah,
the fact that none of them had 100% of the vote shows you how ridiculous that vote is. I mean, it's absurd.
Fair enough. I just wanted to kind of acknowledge that. I kind of feel like maybe Cobb saw.
When you find out that Joe DiMaggio didn't get in on the first ballot, that's when I just have no interest in it anymore. Like I don't know what these guys. I don't understand. I don't understand.
They were still trying to get in the guys who hadn't gotten in yet. I mean, there was a backlog because he retired early, DiMaggio, right? And then they just started this whole thing in 34? So they had a whole backlog of guys to get in, which is why I think the guys like Berra and DiMaggio were pushed back a little bit, I think.
Well, I was watching an interview with Stan Musial, and he was like, he was not expecting to get in first ballot. He's like, he's like, they didn't let Joe DiMaggio in on the first ballot, so I wasn't expecting to get in on the first ballot.
Stan Musial is one of the great, humble, true, they say, knights of the game. But what you're saying, Sammy, is when you're talking about Ty Cobb, the baseball writers did a poll in 1950 of the greatest baseball player of all time. And Ty Cobb was #1, significantly #1, over Ruth, over Wagner. I'm just saying at that time, at that point with those guys, that's what the baseball writers said in 1950.
Do you think baseball writers like it because of the fact that he had so much spunk and attitude? So his name was always kind of just in the focus of fans. And
I feel like he just stuffed the stat sheet. Like if you had fantasy baseball back then, Cobb was like the ultimate stat stuffer. He probably had plenty of games where he was 3 for 5 with 3 runs, 2 doubles, 3 stolen bases. Ricky Henderson, but more extra base hits. Just stat stuffer.
Well, when he retired, I mean, how many records did he hold? He was like the all-time base steal record, the batting average record, and anybody that knows baseball, my God, to bat that high for your entire career and a long career is insane. It's just insane. And he batted over 400 in a season. He could do it all.
And he had a garage to show for it because he would win that batting title and take home a car. That was the prize and he wanted no one else to have a car under his watch.
Yeah, and he played in an era where they didn't hit a lot of home runs, I mean, you could win a batting title with 9 or 7 when he first came into the league. So he was, he's pretty old before they moved to the lively ball in 1920. He had already been in the league for years. So, that's the one thing today. Everybody just cares about home runs. Well, you're not going to have that with a lot of those guys from the dead ball era, period.
I have a question. All right. We all know Barry Bonds has 7 MVPs and no one else even sniffs them. Like the closest is 3 MVPs. And there's a bunch of players that have 3 MVPs. But prior to the war, MVPs were either not a thing or they couldn't be given out twice to a player. Do you think some of these players like Babe Ruth or Ty Cobb would have had 10 MVPs in their day had the MVP would have been started since the 1800s?
Yeah, when did it start? In the 30s?
It was around the 30s it started, and when it started, well, first it was a Chalmers Award, and then afterwards Chalmers stopped doing it, and then it became the MVP. But the MVP, you couldn't win it back-to-back years. It was like they wanted other people to have a chance
guys want it like, I mean, no offense, Mickey Cochran was a great catcher, but they couldn't give it to Ruth. You know what I mean? Like that's kind of the way it went.
Yeah.
So my thing is, if there wasn't this politics in there, and if the best player won it, how many times would Cobb have had an MVP?
Yeah.
Or Ruth, had he won it like simultaneously all those consecutive years where his stats were just crazy.
Yeah, well, I mean, you got to consider that, like, if it wasn't for Cobb, how many batting titles would Tris Speaker have won? Who was, right behind him, or Nap Lajaway. They would have probably been in the mix too, among others. But those two jump to mind immediately.
And Walter Johnson probably could have snuck in. And
even Sam Crawford.
Of them. Yeah, Crawford. I mean, Honus Wagner. I mean,
it's kind of hard.
I was talking just in the American League, but
it's kind of hard to see the development of the MVP in the sense of would a pitcher have won it. I mean, Cy Young was still pitching before they had the Cy Young Award, right? So, you have no idea, like, what would happen and what's the viewpoint of this. I mean, I guess what I would say is the one player that I can think of that really would have had 7 MVPs is Ted Williams. If everything was correct and he didn't go to war and he got the MVP the year he had hit 400, and there wasn't this skewed media, like, no offense, James, but I mean, he had 3 MVPs as it was, and he missed 3 prime years. Like when you look at it's truly his prime years. Like when
he should have won the one over Joe Gordon. They thought he was a draft dodger.
Yeah, I mean that's one there. You should have won it in 41 over DiMaggio. That would have been 5, and he missed 3 prime years where he was the best hitter in the game. So I mean, it would be 7 to 8 MVPs. No steroids, no nothing. Now, unfortunately, his team didn't win. The Yankees won, right? But I mean, but you're right. I think that there's a lot of guys. It's a skewed thing. It's John talks about they have this new thing, and it's this is the first time ever this has happened. Well, this is the first time you've done it before. You've had this award before, right?
Yeah.
This stuff has all been done before.
A lot of people.
It's like in football, they never kept track of sacks, right? So. Anybody on the leader list is going to be a new person, newer player.
Yeah, they never kept track of blocked shots and steals in the NBA until 1973. I mean, Do you really think Hakeem Olajuwon is the true blocks leader?
Yeah.
No, right? It's Wilt Chamberlain and Bill Russell, or the block, and Jabbar. He lost 5 years of blocks.
Yeah,
So
sorry, guys, I gotta head out, but. Yeah, thanks for having me, guys. I'll catch you later.
Hey, thanks for jumping on.
No problem.
Hey, that brings me to something, George. I got a little triggered. I got a little triggered watching the World Series this year because they want to elevate the players. So they give you their postseason home runs, and they're the postseason home run leaders. Well, when Mickey Mantle and Babe Ruth played, they didn't have playoffs. So why are you lumping in all the postseason and not just the World Series? Because we're watching the World Series.
Yeah, come and talk to me about World Series stats.
But
That's
people, people are young people watching that are under the guise that they're better than Babe Ruth and Mickey Mantle or whatever.
Well, Derek Jeter has more postseason home runs than Mickey Mantle. It's crazy. Mickey Mantle, right? The all-time postseason hit leader. The all-time postseason. I mean, this is craziness.
Yeah, Mickey Mantle had 18 just in the World Series, and now he's competing with guys for the postseason who have been in 20 playoff games. That's not fair.
And you also think about Joe DiMaggio, who he played in a ton of World Series but lost 3 to the war. In those 3 years, he would have been in his prime. The team was primed and ready to compete every year. His stats alone, you had 3 more prime years to Joe DiMaggio's career stats. Who knows if we're even looking at Mantle like that, because Joe DiMaggio was just as good.
If you remember,
Joe DiMaggio, second most World Series, only behind Yogi, and he did have a number of home runs in the World Series. He was on that somewhere on that leaderboard. Yeah, I mean you're right, but I know, you can't get into what ifs either. I mean, there's lots of players that miss time for that. What if Mike Trout didn't get hurt every year? What if? But see, to me, that's why I'm not that big into total stats, because if you play 24 years and you were good but not great, your stats are going to be better than most players that ever played the game, right?
It's true.
Because Ted Williams didn't play 24 years. Joe DiMaggio didn't play 24. It's just the way. It's just the way it is. So you're talking about total stats. Then you have, guys that were good but had a really, really long career. They're going to dominate all the stats.
That's why my argument with compilers and people who dominated an era. When I compare Hall of Famers, that's where I kind of I prefer the one who dominated over compilers, just for me, personally.
Well, let's take it a step further. We have DHs now, so Albert Pujols could be way out of shape and just go up and bat and pad stats for 5 years. I mean, Babe Ruth could have played longer if there was a DH, or maybe Mickey Mantle could have played longer if there was a DH and all he had to do was hit. Who knows? I'm just saying that wasn't even an option back then. Hank Aaron was the first one to really do that, where he went to the Brewers. He was a DH, and he was able to extend some stats and some playing time. But, before that, you couldn't do that. You had to play the field.
It's hard to say that with Aaron, though. I mean, this is really like the last year and a half of his career. I mean, he played in the National League, and he actually played fewer games, right?
I'm not. Hey, I'm not taking anything away or saying that had anything. I'm not saying that had anything to do with his stats. He already broke the record. He already did all that. I'm just saying he was the first one, like the first legend that was able to be a DH, because it was right after the rule was implemented. That's all I meant by that. He was the first big DH.
There was a good question by Alan about Eddie Murray or Hank Greenberg and who had a better career. And I just would like to address that. I mean, Eddie Murray is a compiler, right? And there's no doubt Eddie Murray is one of the second, probably, well, some people say Chipper Jones. Eddie Murray is in the top 3 greatest switch hitters of all time. But when you say who had who dominated the league, who had who were you more afraid of? Hank Greenberg all day.
I would agree.
I agree too, which is why. This is why I sometimes just scratch my head why Albert Bell doesn't get any love for Hall of Fame votes. I know he was disliked by the media. I know that. But just sure fear factor and dominated a whole decade. Come on. I'd rather have Albert Bell over Eddie Murray and all these people coming up to plate. And then there's other players like that I could say, this guy was way more dominant over 10 years than Harold Baines for a whole career,
Yeah.
And we're dealing with that, as we talked about with the Hall of Fame coming up with Dave Parker, Steve Garvey, whatever. But I mean, Parker's being one of the best players in the game at the time he was. Dale Murphy later on being one of the best players in the game. I mean, how long do you have to go in this prime? Dave's different.
Right.
We've talked about, because Dave came back and really got robbed of that MVP when he was on the Reds too. That was ridiculous. William McGee won that MVP in 85.
He had an incredible career with the Reds.
Yeah.
I mean, he was incredible with the Pirates, then incredible with the Reds.
And Pete Rose always said, and I think he even talks about him in the Charlie Hustle documentary recently, Dave Parker was the reason they were so successful in that season, almost made it, He's he was just leadership,
Yeah. A lot of people agree with Albert Bell. Unfortunately, they don't have votes. I'll say.
Right.
I wish I could vote, because I would pick Albert Bell on my all-time team every day of the week in his prime. And then Dylan was asking, where did Trout come in the prime years with dominant lists? He wasn't on there compared to a lot of people. They did the top 10, and the video was based on Musial's greatness being overshadowed or not on that level. So they were trying to compare Musial to some of the other greats and how in his prime years, like he was right there, like number 7 or 6, and almost every.
I don't. I just have to say this. I don't. I look at how a guy compares to his contemporaries. I don't say to myself, well, Stan Musial had all these seasons where he had like 45 doubles and 15 triples and hit 333, but that's not as good as what Aaron Judge did right now. I look at how good was he in his time. There was no player in the National League who was a position player that was close to as good as Stan Musial for well over 10 years until integration and Mays and Aaron and those guys. Like Stan Musial was like the guy in the 40s, right? The American League had Ted Williams and Joe DiMaggio, and the National League, it was Stan Musial. I mean,
he was insanely good, and my dad talks about how good he was. And if you talk to anybody that watched him play,
and you look at the back of his card, he did everything. Everything was crooked numbers: doubles, triples, home runs.
Now, didn't he retire with the second most hits too, only behind Ty Cobb?
I believe so. He had like 30.
He had 3,700, I think.
Yeah, it was like 3668 or something.
Yeah, just under 37. Yeah, I mean, an insane number of hits.
Yeah,
he's still. Hold on, he is still.
Was it home runs or hits that he had the exact same number on the road as at home?
Hits.
Oh, I don't know that one.
That's hits, right?
No, he was. Yeah, when he retired, Ty Cobb was number 1 in hits. He was number 2. Number 3 was Tris Speaker. Number 4 was Honus Wagner. Number 5 was Eddie Collins, and number 6 was Napoleon Lajoie. So he's flirting with all these dead. He's the first modern guy to be on the list.
That's what I'm saying, and I had somebody comment that, Stan Musial, why you old vintage collectors collect Stan Musial? He was no good, and I'm like, social media, it's hard to handle sometimes. Well, it's like it's okay if you don't understand, if you don't know anything about baseball or whatever. If you don't know anything, that's okay, but don't make stupid comments that just make you look ignorant. It's like saying Babe Ruth wasn't a good baseball player.
I would say he's the most underappreciated.
Why are you in the hobby?
The hobby. Don't you think he's the most underappreciated in the hobby?
Oh, he's definitely the most underappreciated for how phenomenal of a hitter he was.
Yeah, I mean, you could get his rookie card affordable. I mean,
it's insane.
And then, like, his.
What do you have to pay? 3 times? You have to pay 3 times as much for Ted Williams, don't you?
Yeah. I mean.
Yeah, I mean, if you don't, mine just
Adam just got a 3, a beautiful looking 3 for like $900. You couldn't touch a Ted Williams cut in half for that.
It took me a while to find that Propaganda Montiel Stan Musial, and I chased it was because I knew how great he was, so it didn't matter, and I knew how rare that card was. And
that's a great one to have.
Yeah, it's in a box somewhere.
Well, the other kind of rookie card beyond the bottom bread is the Sport Exchange.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's another one that you have to pay up for. At least you always used to. I haven't seen it priced lately.
And I think he signed a lot, which was another thing that kind of like with collectors was like, he signed a ton. Like Carl.
Yeah,
Hump.
I mean, from all accounts, he was a good guy. Us Western PA guys, we're nice guys. Down to all those guys, Arnold Palmer, Ken Griffey. I mean, it's everybody from that area. George Blanda. It's just down to earth people.
Look at Dylan. He's like Ted Williams is Ted Williams, though. I love it.
Maybe, but I mean, they were both pretty equal players. I mean, that'd be like comparing. They were kind of like Ohtani and Aaron Judge.
I'm not saying that Stan Musial was better than Ted Williams, but he was a better fielder. He was more versatile than Ted Williams. And
I'm not saying he was better. I'm not saying he was better either. I'm just saying that they were both so great. That's like you're splitting hairs.
Yeah, and I mean, Ted Williams said the greatest player he ever saw was Joe DiMaggio. So this is why on our on our thing about center fielders, I had Joe ranked at 3. Not that
he's underrated too in my book. I think he's so underrated and underappreciated.
Who's that?
DiMaggio.
Oh, okay.
I don't think he gets any respect anymore because he used to be.
He's just He's forgotten.
But the old baseball players, just like you said, Ted Williams said he was the greatest he ever saw, right? I've heard other ball players say that he was phenomenal. He was a great baseball player.
You know, it's funny. I have that rare Joe DiMaggio autograph, right? And I had a REA guy who wanted me to consign that with him. And I was like, I'm not sure because it's really rare and this and that. He was like, yeah, but it's for how rare it is. He's not that sought after. So it'll probably go for around $2,000. I was like, really? Because I see early Mickey Mantle autographs going for like 5 figures. He's like, yeah, but for some reason, no matter how much Mickey Mantle signed, he's just got a following, like a cult following.
Yeah.
And
it doesn't have anything to do with who is a better ball player or whatever. It's just that's the following. I argue that it's because of the 52 card. It's because of the 52 card. I argue that because when the T206 card became so famous, all the other Honus Wagner stuff went way up, you know? And it would sell for more than Ty Cobb and in many cases more than Babe Ruth in the old days. And I attributed that to his popularity of the T206 card. It made him a household name, you know, among newer people. And I think that the 1952 Topps factors into that. I mean, I don't think there's any doubt it factors into that because all of Mickey Mantle's cards are twice as much as Clemente or Mays or Aaron. It's ridiculous.
But I think it's a little like how we started the show, saying the right timing with Griffey and Tyson and Jordan. Like it was the right time. I think for Mantle, it was also the right timing where the card boom was starting to happen, the golden era of baseball with the integration and everything. So it was like almost perfect timing for his star to really take off, but it didn't mean he was much better than his predecessors.
I mean, think about
and you can't even blame New York because DiMaggio played in New York. However, in the 60s is when you could certainly watch more games on TV and so forth.
Right.
Where people probably didn't get to see DiMaggio play unless they went to a game.
George?
Yeah, I mean, Mantle was the first, when you watch like the Ken Burns baseball, like the capital of baseball, right? And the first TV star. The TV star was Mickey Mantle. He's blonde. He's blue-eyed. He is ready for prime time. They're winning World Series. The Yankees are winners. And, it's kind of interesting that when the Mantle's rookie is 52, right? So the kids who are watching Mantle were born like pretty much between 40 and 50, right? The people. So by the time that it rolls down to 89 and Ken Griffey, like those people, and when the card boom hits in 89, it started in like 80, 84, 85, those people have money. Those people are involved in the hobby. Those people are 40, 50 years old. And they are, like Al is saying, like Mantle hits these people at the time when they were owning card shops. These guys are 40 years old, 45 years old. They're pumping Mantle. They're pumping Mantle. They're pumping Mantle. I mean, I think it's like really a kind of a perfect timing, like you guys said. That's a couple of the reasons.
Well, that's what it takes,
And it's not, it's not that.
I mean, there's only one time in history. There's only one time in history that Justin Herbert cards would be selling for $240,000. I mean, if it was any other era. So that's another situation where it was just perfect timing, and people made money off of that guy.
How about Shohei? Perfect timing, card boom again, and he's the man that does everything like Babe Ruth. His autographs are like $1,300 on average. His rookie cards, it doesn't matter what variation you have, they're like $100 or more.
Let me ask
you guys. He's a worldwide superstar, man.
When we come, he had shoulder surgery on his non-throwing shoulder. Okay. That's just, dislocation, make sure everything's okay. When we come, to spring training. What's with Shohei cards? What's going to happen? What do you guys think? Like when we get into February and the camps open, the winter meetings are all done, everybody's rosters are set. What's going to happen with Shohei cards?
I think they're going to see an uptick. I mean, he's on the right team now. Dodgers, they won the championship. He's going to now be pitching again, so he's going to get the royal treatment.
Yeah, I mean, maybe a little bit because baseball's on everybody's mind at that time. But I think if he has another phenomenal season, look out. I mean, his stuff could really take off.
Like, let's say he wins a Cy Young. Oh my gosh!
Yeah,
like, he's just gonna keep adding to that lore.
If they go back to the World
Dodgers.
Series, if they go back to the World Series and they use him as a reliever this time, and he wins game 7 out of the bullpen and hit 3 home runs, look out.
Yeah, I mean,
the Dodgers need pitchers. Like they like, you know, Kershaw is kind of up in the air with his injury. Buehler was coming off the surgery. They don't have. They need pitchers, starting pitchers.
Yeah, they're getting Glasnow back. He was their ace, basically.
Yeah, he's been hurt like every year, though.
Yeah. Well, they knew what they were getting when they got him. It was like, you know, Hail Mary.
Michael Kopech, too. He's been hurt like every year of his career.
Wow.
Didn't he have more than one Tommy John surgery? I'll tell you, I have a friend, and he's in his 50s. He still plays baseball, organized baseball. And just came down to Myrtle Beach and came in second. They were playing for the championship. Anyway, so he pitches. And I remember a number of years ago, before Michael Kopech came up, I had seen some video on him, and his stuff was so nasty. He was throwing these balls, and they were so much movement. And I remember sitting there. We went out to happy hour. I said, "You got to see this young pitcher, man. Look at this stuff. It's insane." And I was looking so forward to him coming up. And then I bought some cards, and I got a redemption card, and it was his autograph redemption. So I was all excited to get that, and I kept watching for him. And every year he just get hurt. You really couldn't watch him. Just hurt every year. But man, he's a talented pitcher if he could stay healthy.
Yeah. Listen, man, we've been on for 2 hours and a half. Should we be closing this live?
Yeah, I'm ready to go. I'm ready to go.
I gotta thank all the viewers. We got 30 viewers who still stuck in there, man. So some grinders there, man. You gotta hit that like button.
Thanks for sticking it out.
Yes, hit that like button. Help the
Hump day, baby.
Start getting some subscriber rates going up there. But we thank you all. And look forward to more open forums because it's fun. It's just a big hangout, you know?
Yeah, it'll be fun to have people join.
Yeah.
Just randomly.
So
yeah, don't feel like you have to, like, I don't know, Mike came on, that was awesome, but anybody can come on. We're not going to bite. Again, the prez is got a very kind hand.
It's welcome to all.
Exactly.
And a splendid time is guaranteed for all.
The president is taking his tour to where tomorrow? To Fort Collectors?
Yeah. It's what do they call it? Cardboard and cold ones. But it's usually on Sammy Thunder's channel, but we're doing it on Fort Collectors tomorrow night.
Okay, so it's gonna be like your Joe Rogan interview?
No. It's just cardboard and chill. We just talk cards and the card hobby.
Nice. All right, guys. Well, we're gonna say good night. Thank you for joining us. We
night, everyone.
Showing today. Thank you, guys.
Thanks.